ESPN, brought to you by Sumner One.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Brooke Grimsley here alongside Danny Mac and Matthew Rocchio. Randy Carricker will be back next week. He's been enjoying his time down in Arizona, and hopefully he was able to hit at least one golf course. I'm assuming that he was able to do that. And the weather here, as we discussed yesterday, was a little crazy, Danny. And
yes,
then
sir.
Even so much more last night. Did you see the amount of hail that some people experienced in town?
I did. Did you get any?
No, well, so I was at the Battlehawks town hall event last night at Ballpark Village, and we could hear it outside. And then I looked on social media, and I saw some people posting pictures of how it was busting out their windows, all the hail damage. I'm like, what in the world happened yesterday?
It was like the apocalypse was upon us, and hopefully everybody out there listening to us stayed safe and not a lot of damage done to your home or your car. I was thinking about people around there because I was following the weather on television. It was like circling around my house, but yet hadn't hit. And then when it hit, it hit. It hit. It came down hard, and hopefully everybody is safe out there and can enjoy our show from 7 to 10.
And do you feel more acquainted? You said you were watching weather. Do you feel like you're more of a weather expert now? Because we tried our darnest yesterday. We tried our darnest to tell you about a tornado watch and warning.
Did you get the difference between the two?
A tornado watch is that you are, oh, God. No, Dan, don't do this to me again.
Ask Rocc. Rocc is all over it.
Okay, do you want to explain the taco watch versus warning again? Because honestly, this helps out a lot.
Well, now you can talk about it.
If it's a taco watch, a.k.a. a tornado watch, that means there's all the ingredients present that you could make a taco or create a tornado, that is. A taco warning or a tornado warning means there's a taco right in front of you. Or there's reasonable assumption to believe that there might be a taco somewhere up around you. That would be a tornado warning.
So what does a taco stand for?
A tornado.
Oh, okay.
It just gives you a representative.
So the watch is, there's the correct ingredients. There's weird, there's high winds. There's those weird, high, what is it?
High winds?
Yeah, no, high temperature fronts and low temperature fronts hitting each other. Like there's all those things. People are seeing the funnel clouds up in the air. That is a tornado watch. And then if people are actually like, there's like a hard wall or people are seeing actual things get, spin down, that's a warning. So warning's worse, watch is not as bad. Warning is worse, watch is not as bad.
314 asking, where's the Friday song? Well, again, Randy isn't here. Randy is the one that dictates what sound and what sound bites are played.
And he has his little soundboard.
He does have a soundboard for... full of useless sounds.
I love it. I think Dan's favorite is the air horns.
Oh, it hurts my ears when he wins and he does the air horns. Yeah, that's a thing on you, Rocc. You need to pull that down ever so slightly because it's really loud.
Here's the thing. All his sound effects have different levels.
Oh, so that makes it tough for you.
They're not normalized all to a certain level, and so there's certain ones that I need to have higher up, and there's certain ones that I need to have lower down. I need to just lock into my brain that his horns are louder because Pacino's super loud. I have to have that potted down for Ask Uncle Randy.
I'm around,
that one I remember. Yeah,
I've been around,
That one's super loud, so I have that potted down like halfway. So there's a couple different ones where I know, like I've locked in my brain, that one's super loud, that one's super quiet. I always forget about the horns, though, and that's my apologies.
No, it's not your fault because you got a lot of things on your plate. I just take my headset and put it higher on my head.
I've noticed that.
So I just get out of the way that way.
You found a workaround. So I do want to talk about the Battlehawks Town Hall last night. Danny Mac, it was so much fun. We had a great event over there at Ballpark Village. The Fast Lane was there from 2 to 6 p.m. And we had head coach Anthony Becht. We had Russ Brandon, who is the president of the UFL. And then we had Daryl Johnson, who I'm sure some people who are Cowboys fans found him very familiar.
Okay, I got to ask you a question. Yeah. What is his official, is he the president?
He is the executive vice president of football operations for the UFL.
Okay, that makes sense now. Because I see him pop up all the time, and I'm like, what's Daryl Johnson doing here? Doesn't he have a football game to call? He's the former Dallas Cowboy.
He's a little bit everywhere.
I bet he is. So he's
is.
kind of overseeing the whole thing.
Yes, the football operation side of things. So it was very exciting being out there talking to them. Head coach Anthony Becht is always fantastic, and I had the pleasure of moderating the event. I felt very honored to be able to do so. And Dan, there were so many fans out there ready because we had the announcement yesterday that St. Louis will host the UFL Championship here on June 16th, and hopefully the Battlehawks will be a part of it. But either way, to be able to host that at the Dome, I love when you were able to bring big events like that here to the city.
How many people are they expecting to, because they're opening up parts of the upper deck? Have they said, in terms of season tickets, what do they have and what are they expecting for crowds on a weekly basis?
They haven't said exactly yet, but they do keep promoting to fill the Dome. So I think it's what you saw a lot of last season. And we know that fans have no problem with filling up the Dome.
Yeah.
There was a lot of shirts, Dan, that said fill the Dome. So I'm very excited to see how that works out for them.
The UFL is saying, please, Battlehawks, get in the championship game. Please find a way to get in the championship game. Then we can have 50,000 people at the Dome. I bet if they do make it to the championship game, you'll have over 40,000, maybe 45. Could he get to 50? Maybe.
And just, not being national media person taking a shot, just being realistic. When was the last time there was 50,000 for a football game in the Dome?
Yeah, even with the Rams, are you saying?
Yeah, that's I'm like there were some pretty good 40,000 person crowds for those last few years, but I'm guessing at that point it'll have been 2024. It'll have been 10 years. 12 years maybe since there were that many people there for a football game. That'd be magical.
What are some of the events though that have brought in packed houses at the Dome? I'm sure the text line can help. Beyonce probably.
Yeah.
Metallica wasn't too far ago.
Metallica was 2 days in a row too, and that was a huge amount of ticket sales.
Yeah.
I always get confused which shows are at which venues. Because I'm not sure which concerts are actually at the Dome compared to Enterprise.
By the way, folks are saying Daryl Johnston. That's what we were saying.
We were saying that.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe I didn't enunciate properly.
I thought you did, Brooke.
I thought you did too, Dan.
So
as long as we hear it, then Daryl Johnston.
Whatever we hear, that's what we want. Okay, if it's not going across the air properly, so what? We made a little mistake.
Happens. It does happen. So it will be very exciting to see the Battlehawks kick off their season here soon. Yes.
So you did enjoy it.
I did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fans. I loved seeing the costumes that they had out there too. A lot of really good costumes, and also a discussion about what exactly is a Battlehawk. That was something that we discussed, and Anthony Becht did a good job of just talking about it being what he thinks a St. Louisan is, which is a hard worker, blue collar, all the different kind of stuff. What is a Battlehawk? Who knows?
I have no idea.
Isn't it a? I think the actual like everyone took the caw thing and ran with it, but I thought the actual factual muse for it was a fighter jet.
Really?
I thought the Battlehawk was like a fighter. Like that's what I thought.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, because McDonnell Douglas and Boeing.
Sure,
and
you see that all the time.
And all of that history throughout St. Louis. I think that's what it's supposed to be. And because I remember in the early year, people being really ticked off. Like there being a weird section of fans who were like, "Why does everyone say caw? That's a stupid thing. It's a fighter jet, not a bird."
That would make some sense.
Yeah, I believe that's what it was.
I think so. And then it's kind of taken on new life with how people interpret it with their costumes. Also, my favorite moment of the night is we open it up for some fans, and there was a little girl in this blue tutu, and she was wearing a Battlehawks shirt, and she had her hand raised. And I was like, okay, let's get her the mic.
Yeah.
And so they got her the mic, and she said, "Can I get your autograph?" Looking at me, I was like, "You want my autograph?" I was like, "You need their autograph." She's like, "No, I want your autograph."
And you told her, "Listen, young lady, your people need to talk to my people."
Oh, no, I did not.
Oh, okay, good.
No, I did not. I let her up on stage, and we made sure to get things signed. And she got the way more important people to sign her shirt as well. But I just thought that was the cutest moment. There was a lot of little girls there, and just as a woman in sports, it makes me so happy to see that, because that was me when I was younger. Is going to Titans games with my dad, just being a fan, and then turning into a bigger sports fan, because that was some of my just fondest memories growing up.
I went to a fundraiser with my dad. It is a fond memory that I have, and I was really little. I was probably 6 or 7, and many Cardinal players were there, and I got Ozzie Smith's autograph, and he is still my favorite Cardinal of all time. I remember even back then how gracious he was to me. And I always say to Ozzy, not only were you a great player, but you're also just a great person. And many times when you meet your idols growing up, they are not what you thought they would be. And I said to Ozzy, I said, you've actually surpassed that. So I'm very, very excited to still have the autograph on whatever the giveaway was. It was some pamphlet, and I got the autograph, so I'm very thankful. By the way, just very quickly, they said WWE Royal Rumble was packed.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. There was another one here. Taylor Swift. Garth Brooks. Yep, those would be ones I'm sure that pack the dome. That makes sense.
Yeah, so we'll see if fans are able to pack the dome again, which I have no doubt that they will be able to do just based off of how things went last night. Also, yesterday, the Cardinals in a scoreless tie against the Mets. What in the world in the soccer scores are going on right now with the Cardinals spring training? Or do you like 0-0 draw, Dan?
I like well pitched, so that would be 0-0. Lance Lynn went 4 innings, 1 hit, struck out 4. His game was so efficient that he actually had to go down into the bullpen. Wasn't kicked out, wasn't ejected.
That's a good thing because it happened the first time.
So he actually went down to the bullpen to finish what they wanted him to get through allotment of pitches. I think it was around 60, probably 60, 65, something like that. So looked good yesterday, and he was hitting around 91, 92, which is where he sits at now in his career, and looking forward to his next start.
I think with Lance Lynn, that's what you're hoping to see. Now, it was just his second spring start. So, of course, you're only taking in what you can see at this moment. But you've seen an efficient Lance Lynn before.
Yeah, it's real simple. It's fastball after fastball. It's 4-seamer, 2-seamer, 2-seamer gets the sink. I mean, there's nothing... when you watch him, there's nothing, you know it's coming. And and it's like, okay, here it is. Hit it if you want. If not, swing through it, miss. But honestly, that's all he throws. It's like 90% fastballs.
Yeah.
Here it is. He gets now. One of the things that they talked about with him coming into this season, I talked to some folks involved with signing him, and they felt like he wasn't getting on top of his pitches. Which, if he doesn't do that, it flattens out, and then he gets just destroyed. So that doesn't happen. If they can figure out the technical flaw, which it sounds like they've done some of that, then he can get back to the Lance Lynn that he was a couple years ago.
That would be very helpful if that happens.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful if that happens.
They need him. They need him for sure, and they need these other guys to stay healthy, and hopefully he gives them some innings going into the season.
Well, when you're talking about health, on the injury front yesterday, we discussed this, but is it official? It is official. Cardinals with an update on Tommy Edman. He will begin the season on the injured list as he continues to really, I guess, recoup. Recoup is the best way to put it, from that wrist surgery that he had back in October. We expected this from Tommy Edman at this point because it just felt like you knew, based off of the way that things were going, he continued to be shut down, continued to have setbacks, and now we know for sure that he will start the season on the injured list.
Makes you wonder with this type of injury that why wasn't the surgery performed when the season was out of reach last year? Maybe. I mean, I'm sure that they felt like the timeline for this type of surgery is October, and it gets you to opening day. The thing I keep saying is now I'm all in on the Victor Scott bus. Just bring him up.
Are you aboard
I'm in.
Welcome in.
Put me on the bus, bring him up, see what he can do, and start his clock, put him on the 40-man. This is about entertainment, man.
It is.
And if they're not going to be set in other positions, which it sounds like they're not, bring him up and see what he can do. Because everywhere I go, people are like, man, bring up Victor Scott. So count me in. Bring up Victor Scott. Let's do it.
Welcome aboard, Dan. Welcome aboard the Victor Scott hype train.
I was taking a reasonable approach as to why maybe they wouldn't. I didn't say, okay, they're not going to do. I just said, maybe they're going to slow it down. They're going to say, okay, let's not start his clock, not add him to the 40-man. Let's ease him into me. Throw it out. Put the Victor Scott bus. Give me a doorway to get in on it, and I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It is very reasonable what you brought up, too, the fact that he hasn't played in AAA yet. So you can see why there would be some hesitation. Also, updates on other injuries. Lars Nootbaar, as we know, he has been out with 2 non-displaced rib fractures, and he is set to be evaluated on Saturday. And we know yesterday that Sonny Gray, he did have another bullpen session. The Cardinals will look to see how he recovers today, and then maybe make a decision off of that.
Could be your opening day starter after all this stuff that's going on with him and trying to figure out if he's going to be healthy enough to do it. I've said this a lot, though, Brooke. I'm just concerned when you have that kind of injury, and as intense as he is, gets on the mound with a guy in the batter's box, you know he's going to be amping it up a little bit, and that's where I think you can get stress on any injury. So hopefully he's going to be all right, and we'll see him rather sooner rather than later.
I would rather just for him to wait, just so that we don't have more issues down the line. And that's just me personally, because we saw that happened with him back in 2022. Completely healthy in 2023, but I don't want to see that being a continuing issue for him.
Say the same thing with Tommy Edman. Just ease them back in. You got Burleson. You got Dylan Carlson, who hit a home run the other day. You got Victor Scott. You got Jordan Walker. So you do have options in that outfield, and you have options in the pitching staff because Zach Thompson's been pitching so well.
That's Dan. I'm Brooke. Coming up next, we are going to talk to former PGA pro Jay Delsing about everything during the PGA Tour right now. That's coming up next here on The Opening Drive. Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocc here, and we go to the celebrity line now to talk to our friend of the show, former PGA pro Jay Delsing. Jay, how are you doing this morning?
Brooke, Danny, I'm doing great. How about you guys?
We're doing good. We experienced some crazy weather yesterday. Are you in town for that currently?
I was in town for enough of it. Right now, I'm out in Delray Beach hanging out with my brother, looking at the ocean. It's pretty nice down here, guys.
Oh, you're rubbing it in right now, aren't you, Jay?
Oh, I am. Oh, hell yeah, I am.
Hey, Jay, just a week ago, I'm going to start there at Bay Hill. Scotty Scheffler wins, and he dominated. He did it with a mallet putter. Tell our fans, our listeners, the difference between a blade putter and a mallet putter, because it made a big difference with him.
I just ordered one. I've putted with a blade putter my entire life. I've never once putted with a mallet putter, and after what he did, I ordered one of these spiders, these tailor-made spiders that he's using. So, guys, a mallet head putter, a blade putter is probably from the front face of the putter to the back of the putter no more than an inch, maybe an inch and a half wide, and it's typically the same. It's about 4.5 inches long. A mallet putter looks almost like a satellite dish, like it could get 48 channels. It's big. It's got a lot to swing, but they've done so much with AI and so much in the tech part of golf equipment that they've made these things so well balanced, and these tailor-made spiders are one of the most popular putters used on the PGA Tour right now, guys. I know Rory's using one. Ricky Fowler's got a version of one. So Wyndham Clark is using one. So it's extremely popular right now, and I'd like to make more putts, so I'm going to try one.
That sounds good. Well, I want to ask you, you mentioned Rory, and yesterday during the Players' Championship, Rory McIlroy with an opening round that was fantastic, but there was a little bit of controversy. He shot an impressive 7 under 65, and it could have been a little bit lower if it was not for 2 costly shots that he sent to the water. And there was some rules officials involved, and it seemed like maybe his playing partners weren't a little too pleased. What did you make of all that yesterday?
Yeah, you know what, Brooke, I've watched it, I've listened to it. So what happens is you've got to try to figure out where the ball last crosses the margin of, they call it a penalty area now. It used to be called a water hazard, whatever. There's a red line that demarcates the hazard. And when you have options, so when he hit 2 big duck hooks yesterday, which is really unusual for Rory, the way he drives the ball. And he also made 10 birdies in a round. So he played a lot of good golf. But on the 7th hole, he was up trying to hit a fade down the left and hit a hook and went in the water, and they were trying to determine where it crossed the fairway. And when Jordan Spieth gets involved in anything, it's so interesting because he almost has these debates with himself, where you hear he and his caddy, when we were working for Fox, and we'd have Jordan Spieth as one of the guys in our groups, we never had to make any sort of comments. We just turn our mics up and listen to Jordan talk to Michael Greller, because he goes over every single thing that you could possibly go over. And all that they were trying to determine was, where did the ball cross the hazard? Because no one could see it, because there's a bank over there, guys. The thing that's important to know is that if the ball never went to the right or crossed over the water hazard, Rory would have to go back to the tee. But there was only a small amount of that hazard exposed over there. I feel really comfortable that he did the right thing. And then he called the rules official in. They consulted with television, which is something we never used to do back in the day. And I think it's really a smart thing, because then there's really no controversy. I think Jordan was just trying to make sure that Rory didn't take a wrong drop and have it come back to bite him, because someone on television would say, hey, we saw this do that. So they basically checked all the boxes and got it right.
Speaking of Rory McIlroy, he said this past week he is all for cutting lesser players out of the tour, less tour cards, and just having the best of the best. When you heard that, Jay, what did you think?
Oh, killed me. Danny, so, guys, I think it was either my rookie year or my second year on the PGA Tour, I was on the Player Advisory Council. And it's something that I'd never done before, but I was really interested to learn and see what it was like. And in that first meeting, okay, I think it was my rookie year on tour, that first meeting, Lanny Watkins stands up and says, before we even start the agenda, he says, I think the tour should only be 30 players, and everybody else should just go home. And I'm like, I had a nice career. You know, I made it like 2 weeks out, and I go to my first meeting, and now they want to run everybody out. There's been talk by the top players about this all the time, and I think it's a load of baloney. I mean, what was really offensive was Wyndham Clark was asked this question, and he's like, yeah, I kind of support what Rory is saying. And I'm like, Wyndham, 2 years ago,
you were that guy.
You would have been playing then. You
exactly.
were that guy. You would have just got yourself. So I think, this is just me personally, guys, but I think the spectators love the stories of guys struggling with their game and then finding it, and every once in a while having something amazing happen and a guy beat a guy like Tiger Woods. I think that those stories are there. I really don't buy into these elevated events. I don't. The smaller field with no cut, that's less competitive in my opinion. You get 144 guys that are professional golfers on the current PGA Tour, and any single one of those guys can win an event. I got to tell you guys, I just feel like the taste in my mouth right now for professional golf and listening to these guys whine and trying to figure out what's the right thing to do, having they all swirl with so much money just makes me sick. I mean, they're overpriced. They sound like they're so out of touch with reality. I don't like it at all.
No, I mean, the thing is, too, as you know, it's so hard and difficult to be able to get your PGA Tour card, which is something that they all know. I'm very surprised that Rory would make those comments and that there would be people who agree with him, because I personally, as you're mentioning, Jay, I like the underdog story. I like that every once in a while. I know that we've been having a discussion about that there's maybe not enough juice that you're seeing with some of these big events, but at the same time, I like some of the newer faces coming up. Why do you think that Rory would make a comment like that? Because where do they go from here after that?
Oh, I don't know. Rory has been all over the place, Brooke. To your point, he's walked back the idea that he hated Liv. Now he's okay. Let's bring the Liv guys back. That's also self-serving because he's watching his European Ryder Cup team get decimated with all the players going to Liv, and so he's definitely self-serving there. I don't really know why he's saying this. I mean, the guy's got more money than he could ever spend. He's still super competitive, but I mean, sometimes I think he just needs to stay away from the microphone for a while, because you can't keep saying all of this stuff and be taken seriously. Eventually, you're going to go like, well, now he's saying this, and last week he said that, and up until this point, Brooke, I feel like Rory's been almost the face of the tour and almost the voice of reason, where he had a lot of really sound things to say. Now I think he's just, I don't know, he's too much talking, man. Just start playing golf, play really good golf, and let your game do the talking, and let some smarter guys figure out the other stuff.
They talk about this weekend being like a fifth major, the Players' Championship, the Players' Stadium course at TPC Sawgrass. For people that watch this weekend, Jay, there's a special hole there, and it makes it really tough, doesn't it?
Danny, we talked about this the other day. This is so fun because, you guys, when you pull into the parking lot at the TPC for your round, you're thinking about the 17th green. And the irony is, you guys, is that if you gave me that shot in the middle of the fairway, I would never once, and I say middle of the fairway because you get to tee the ball up, and on a perfect lie, I would probably one time in 100 leave the ball short of a green with that sort of situation. But make it water and make the entire green an island, and man, that thing shrinks a lot. this thing, guys, this green gets in your head so much that the guys have counted. I think there's like 168 steps from the 16th green to the 17th tee. And there's just all of this stuff that goes in your mind. And when you walk up, you hit your second shot on 16, the par 5, and hopefully you hit it on the green or somewhere. The first thing you do is look over to your right. because all the people, that's where the 17th green is. That's where all the people are gathered. That's where so much of the drama happens. And, oh my gosh, I can remember I was having a good tournament there one year, and we were playing in the fall like we are now, and the wind was blowing into us, and the shot was about 155 yards or so. It was longer, and they had a tee to the left, which made the angle a little weirder because you couldn't see that little pot bunker, the flagstick. This was a Sunday, and I didn't know if I should hit just a little 7 or a kind of a hard 8. I decided to try to hit this hard 8, and I hit it thin, and I'm like, oh, dear Lord, please just find the green somehow, find the green. So it carries the front edge and creeps over the hill. And, guys, it goes up so close to the hole that I couldn't miss it. It was like 5 inches away. It was the greatest walk I'd ever had. I got to walk around there. People were acting like I hit the greatest shot I've ever hit, and I hit it. I almost hit it right in the forehead. I hit it really skinny, and it just happened to work out, and I was like, thank God this hole's over.
Hey, Jay, we've got a great show this weekend. We've got 8 to 10 this Sunday. Miller Brady, president of the Champions Tour, will be our guest, and we'll also talk to Jeff Smith, who is the managing partner of Walters Golf Management. So looking forward to that. Hey, you enjoy your time down in Florida. We'll catch you up next week.
Great show, guys. Talk to you soon, Danny.
That is Jay Delsing. Always fun to visit with him.
Jay is fantastic, and I always love his takes, too, on what he brings up, and he's always super current on everything that, of course, is going on with the PGA Tour. And I think he's 100% right. There seems to be just so much division around golf right now, and it just continues to be more of a distraction when you have those comments that keep coming out from players.
No doubt. Joey Vitale, the Blues analyst, is coming up. Huge weekend for the Blues. That's next on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. After 2 days off, including tonight, the Blues will be back in action over the weekend with a back-to-back. First game will be against the Wild on Saturday night, 7 p.m. puck drop, 6 p.m. pregame. On Sunday night, they play the Anaheim Ducks, 6 p.m. puck drop, 5 p.m. pregame, right here on your home for the St. Louis Blues, 101 ESPN. Also in action this weekend, St. Louis City SC will travel to L.A. for a game against the Galaxy. It's a late kickoff, 9:30 p.m., and they will be doing that without Edward Leuven, who has a hamstring injury. The team is saying they do not want to put a time on his return. They will reevaluate him in 2 weeks. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Joey Vitale views things a little differently. Just imagine how he looks at hockey. Whoa! This is The View from Vitale, brought to you by Scott Lee Heating Company, a proud Mitsubishi Electric Elite contractor.
Brooke, Dan, and Rocc here, and we head to the celebrity line now to talk to Blues analyst Joey Vitale. Joey, how are you doing today?
Hey, Brooke. Hey, I'm doing really good right now. In about 10 minutes, I'm not going to be doing so good. I'm at the convention center, the Dome downtown, and I said this to you guys, I think, before. If you ever want to know what the entrance to hell looks like, come down to the Dome on a volleyball qualifier. Yeah, I'm about to head in there. My daughter's got a big weekend down here, so the whistles and the crying and the refs and the parents, it's just a war zone. So to answer your question, I'm good right now in this tight little corner, quiet corner, as quiet as I could be, and then but about 10 minutes it's going to really pick up.
Yeah, so you have peace just for a little bit. Now, Joey, I feel like your kids are in just about every single sport. For all the parents out there, how in the world do you manage all of this? Because I went to a game not too long ago, Blues game, and it's one of my favorite things during the intermission when they have some of the little hockey players come out and play against each other. And sure enough, I see your last name on the back of one of the jerseys. I feel like they are just so busy. What is that like, managing all of that?
I don't know. I don't know, Brooke. I wish I had an answer for you. I find myself second guessing what we do all the time. You know, it's a hard balance for parents because, you know, you want your kids to play as many sports as possible, and we want our kids to be active and moving around a ton. But, you know, the way sports are nowadays, everything's so specialized at such a young age where if you want them to play a certain sport, doesn't really allow you to do any other sport because there's so many practice times and all this stuff. But, you know, we're figuring it out. You know, I think as they're young to do as many as possible. But, you know, my daughter who's 12, my son's 10, we're starting to see that, you know, within the next year or two, they're probably going to just find one. But to answer your question, my wife and I hardly ever see each other. It's probably why our marriage is on fire right now, because we hardly ever see each other, which is maybe a good thing. Absence is probably a positive thing for us. But, you know, the other thing, too, is just you lean on people. You lean on people. Make sure you create a good community for all you young adults out there who want to have your kids in lots of sports. Because without the community and certainly neighbors and really good friends in the Kirkwood area, we wouldn't be able to get our kids wherever they want. So having a good community and having a good spouse that understands the fact that you may only go on a date night once every 6 months nowadays.
Hey, absence makes the heart grow fonder is, I guess, the saying. But you touched on something that we were talking about yesterday about youth sports and how it has gotten a little crazy and out of hand, where you have a lot more specialization. It seems like there's all these different things that kids have to go through now that kind of takes away the fun of the game. When you were growing up, and we talked about this with other athletes, you were able to play multiple sports, and it seems like most of the pro athletes did play multiple sports growing up, not just specializing in one thing.
Well, it's important. You know, they're starting to find more and more with athletes is that the injury, you become more injury prone when you specialize at a younger age. And what they're finding is, let's look at a volleyball player. If a kid just plays volleyball from 6U all the way up and has these aspirations of playing college and whatever, and so they just want to do volleyball year round, that's well and good when they're young, right? They're gonna excel and they're going to surpass kids at 6U, 10U, 12U. But eventually, over time, they're finding that the athletes are the ones, especially around that puberty age, that's the ones that really start to take off because they're well versed with the muscle groups. When you have a kid that specializes in volleyball versus a kid that has played volleyball and hockey and maybe softball and swims, the muscle groups, the core engagement, the different fibers that click on different muscle groups. I mean, they're starting to find that is just equally, if not the most important thing from injury prevention standpoint. So it is the balance then. So for parents, you want your kid and they love, let's say my son, for example, he loves hockey. I love that he loves hockey, but right now he's playing lacrosse and he's like, Dad, I was like, you need to do something. What do you want to do? He's like, I guess I'll play lacrosse. And, he likes lacrosse. He doesn't love lacrosse, but it's important that you take a break from other sports and you jump in and you use different muscle fibers. And, of course, your hand-eye coordination is all different because at the end of the day, you want your kids to be healthy and you want them to be in a good position to do whatever they love down the road. But, Brooke, I'm starting to see more and more, and I've heard this term a lot when I had younger kids, and now I'm starting to see my kids as they get older. You really don't know what you have until puberty. I think a lot of parents think that, just get so anxious about kids at a young age and making sure this whole Tiger Woods, thing where you got to be on your kids all the time like Tiger's dad was. But you know what? Until you hit puberty, you really just don't know. So just enjoy the ride and just hope that everyone stays healthy. But it is a tough balance. And I do sympathize with parents, especially nowadays with everything and how specialized it is.
We got hockey this weekend. We got the Wild. We got the Ducks. Joey, what are you expecting? And obviously, that are two huge games for the Blues.
Danny, this is the biggest game of the season for them, just plain and simple. And I think the next week and a half, every game they play is going to be the same thing, biggest game. But this definitely is now. I mean, you had a great win against the LA Kings the other night. Minnesota wins last night. So, they're going to be feeling great. They've been winning some great hockey games backed by Marc-Andre Fleury, who just continues to be ageless. He just continues to get better and better as every game and every year goes on. So it's going to be a difficult match Saturday night against the Minnesota Wild. The Blues have done very well against Minnesota on home ice. That's the positive news. And but you're looking at them still kind of 6-8 points back behind the LA Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights. The Blues did get a little help from Vegas last night who lost to Calgary. So, to come in to tomorrow's game, to me, it's a big one because on the next night you're playing the Anaheim Ducks, which is a weaker team. You should be able to have that game. So if you can put together, 3 games in a row, including the one we saw from LA the other night, it could really spark this team in a really positive way as we get a little bit closer to the end of the season.
The spark has been the third line. What have you seen from them?
Big bodies, moving well, on the same page, and playing to their strength. Listen, you're if you're Kevin Hayes, you're not going to blow by, a Brodin tomorrow night. You're not going to burn someone wide if you're Brandon Saad. They're a smart group of guys. They've been there in the league a long time. Between Kasperi Kapanen on the other wing, making simple decisions to chip in, to get a good forecheck, to have 2 guys hunting around, and when they get the puck down low, Dan, it's almost impossible to take the puck away from Kevin Hayes. He's just so big. He's got so much leverage. His reach is so incredibly long because he's so tall. So he puck protects so well, and I think that they're starting to understand that it's the offensive zone time. They remind me a lot of what Pat Maroon was back in 2019. Pat was known to be, at the beginning, a slower player. They thought he couldn't cut it in the league anymore. And about halfway through the season, he found his groove that, Robert Thomas and Bozak, they were chipping into his corner. And he was very, very effective below the offensive dots. And that's what we're starting to see, especially out of Kevin Hayes. And he's had a really nice supporting cast with Brandon Saad and Kasperi Kapanen, who, of course, is really starting to find his game after a 3-point night versus the Boston Bruins last week.
Joey, thank you so much for joining us and also wishing you the best of luck today during the volleyball tournament.
Just my wife took these Amaz classes when we're having all these babies, like the breathing techniques. I'm just going to walk in with this. I think I'm going to find my zen, but it's always great talking to you guys, and you guys have a wonderful week.
All right. Thank you so much, Joey. That was Joey Vitale, the Blues analyst. And as we were talking about, the Blues will continue their 4-game homestand this Saturday. Puck drop will be at 7 p.m. and pregame will be here at 6, and they'll be facing off against the Minnesota Wild. Coming up next, we have Take It or Leave It. So get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line. That is 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho!
Yo, no.
Oh, Take It or Leave It is coming up next.
Take it or leave it.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocc here, and it is now time for Take It or Leave It. So send your text into the Air Comfort Service text line. That is 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. It is time for Take It or Leave It. Dan, why don't you kick it off for us?
Okay, take it or leave it. This will be a hot topic, I bet.
Ooh,
Matt
a hot
Carpenter.
take.
Yeah, Matt Carpenter quietly, for his role, will have a solid season for the Cardinals.
Ooh.
He's hitting 267 right now in spring. He's got a home run. It's been limited time, which will be his role this year for the Cardinals.
I will take it just because I do believe it will be limited opportunities, but in those limited opportunities, he will do well.
I think what's interesting is when you get Tommy Edman back, when you get Lars Nootbaar back, what do? I mean, that bench is going to be loaded. So now,
and if you have Victor Scott around, there's so many different things. And Brandon Crawford.
Yep, there's a lot of variables that go into this. But, they say that they need to have experience. Well, you got, 34-year-old Sonny Gray. Michaelis is 35. Gibson, 36. Lynn is 37. So your rotation should have plenty of experience. Arenado is 33. Goldie, 36. You have Donovan, who's emerging as a leader. You got Tommy Edman, who will be a leader of this team when he comes back off the IL. So I really don't want to hear that we need experience concerning the Cardinals because you have plenty of it.
You have a lot of experience in that room. Very well-seasoned room. Do you like how I phrased it that way?
Well-seasoned is well done.
That's a good one. Take it or leave it. With the news yesterday that we talked about with Dylan Cease being traded to the Padres, Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery will go unsigned into the season.
I'm going to take it. Now, we have 2 weeks left to go in spring training, but they have not been signed, which is incredibly hard to believe. But the only way that this would happen, most rosters are set, is that if somebody gets hurt. Now, that could happen clearly with 2 weeks to go. And it needs to be a team that has the will to spend.
They do.
It's got to be a market that's willing to spend, which then limits the pool of teams that would want to sign him. I just cannot believe these guys aren't signed.
I can't either. And it seems like a disservice at this point by Scott Boras, and I don't know fully what's going on there. But as you mentioned, there is some opportunities. You have Garrett Cole, everything that is going on with him and the Yankees. There's reports yesterday that he will not need Tommy John surgery, but he still will be out probably 10 to 12 weeks. And I imagine that's something, Dan, with elbow injuries, that's not something that just goes away, even after some time off. So I'm surprised the Yankees haven't moved forward with either Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery, who used to be with the Yankees.
And that's the kind of team I'm talking about. Big market team, willing to spend money, has an injury or two in the rotation. And that would seem to be the fit. Now, I wonder if Texas wants to bring back Montgomery, but they have filled the rotation. And certainly when you get these guys, you could bump somebody out of it and put them in their bullpen. Or if it's a young kid, you send them to the minor leagues. But, man, you got to have the right situation when it comes to signing these two guys.
You do. And with Monty, I just think it's absolutely nuts to me. I can't wrap my head around it that you go from pitching in the World Series, helping your team win, to now you don't have a team going into the season. And you're healthy.
Take it a step further. When's the last time that a Cy Young Award winner, two-time, has been waiting to sign with a team? But it does tell you a little bit about the appetite for teams to say, well, he walks 5 per 9. He's kind of a 5 or 6 inning pitcher. Do we really want to pitch or have the kind of money for that guy that only gives you 5 or 6 innings? And I would assume that market is slim.
Yeah.
For the kind of money he's asking for.
What do we have on the text line?
Take it or leave it. Hollywood Brown is an all-pro receiver if he signs with the Chiefs.
Is he not signing with the Chiefs? I thought
the reports was that he was, yes.
Yeah, he is signing with the Chiefs. I'll take it.
I would take it, too.
I think that was a great move. And honestly, I think the contract, when I was looking at it, at least the reports on it, I was expecting him to get a lot more money than he did. Let me find it right now.
I would say this, Brooke, if you signed with the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes will make you all pro.
Exactly. He does. He elevates all the players around him. But I thought that was a fantastic move. 1-year contract for up to $11 million. I thought that was a pretty good deal.
Absolutely. Take that. What do you got, Rocc?
Take it or leave it. Dan secretly loves the yo-ho. He's just working on his confidence in the tone.
No question about it.
I think that's exactly what it is. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to take that. It's more of the presentation that I need to work on, and that may take months to work on, if not years.
Conveniently, it might take a while. I'm going to take it because I think you secretly love it. I think you secretly enjoy it.
Yeah, I look forward to it every day.
I know you do. I'm sure you practice at home.
Oh, God, no. Call in the dogs. Yo-ho. Come on in.
The dinner bell.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. A number 1 seed will lose a game in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
I'm going to leave that, even though it's happened, but it's so minute that happens. Now, round 2, we got something else we're talking about, but round 1, I will leave that.
You don't think so? That's what I love about March Madness is because it's pure madness. You never know what to expect.
I can't remember. Who was the number 1 seed? Was it last year, the year before? Virginia, I think, was the number 1 seed that went down in the first round.
UMBC.
Say again?
They lost to UMBC.
Yeah, so they were a number 1 that went down. Were they the first ever?
First ever, and then they came back next year and won the freaking championship.
Yeah.
God, I hate that Virginia team.
Why?
They were the most that is the most boring brand of basketball that has ever been created.
If you love defense,
outside
though,
of Pat Riley's Knicks, that's like, okay, cool. Let's win games 42-40. What decade is this? Jesus, that was the worst thing in the world. I was so happy when they lost and so mad when they won.
314, great. Now I can stop seeing Dan practicing his yo-ho in the shower.
Oh.
Wow.
Whoa. Somebody just revealed something there.
All right, take it or leave it. Victor
Dan,
Scott.
you might need to scan your house for some cameras later.
Take it or leave it. Victor Scott starts the season in center field with Donovan as your starting left fielder on opening day.
Donovan as your starting left fielder. Ooh, we did see that yesterday, and Donnie did look pretty good in left field. I would be a little bit too concerned about rushing because now he is fully recovered, but as we know, he dealt with the surgery as well a little bit sooner than Tommy Edman did. I'd be worried about that possibly.
I would say, too, if you're looking, a lot of it has a trickle-down effect. So if you want your DH to be one of the catchers, then you would put Gorman at second. You would knock Burleson out of left, and then you'd put Donovan in left field. Or you could have Donovan be super utility. I'd prefer him to be at second base more of the times than not. Burleson in left, and then your catcher's Contreras. So there's a lot of moving parts with that if you decide to go with Brendan Donovan in left field.
Yeah, and you do still have Burley, and that's the other thing. He had a great dive and catch, Dan, the other day. I know that we always look at those spring training highlights. We like the good dive and catch, so.
I think if you hit, you play.
Yes.
That would be...
especially with what we've seen with the outfield.
With the interchangeable parts, too. Mm-hmm. You know, there's some guys that are going to play every single day, whether they're hitting or not. Arenado, Goldie, probably Walker, Contreras for sure. But if you hit, you play. You stay in the lineup.
And I do, maybe to this person's point, see the concern about your corner outfield positions because if you have Alec Burleson, we know that he's still working on things defensively, and maybe that progress isn't fully there. And Jordan Walker, he did have his first error of the spring the other day. He's still growing defensively in the outfield, so maybe that's their thought process behind it too.
636, take it or leave it. Burleson can flat out hit. I agree with you, and his bat keeps him in the lineup. I agree. Unfortunately for the Cardinals, their defense was very poor last year. Their outfield defense especially was poor. So maybe what you do is you start him in left, and then if you have a lead, let's say after 6, then he comes out, and you put a more defensive you don't have a defensive liability in left field. I'm not saying he's a total liability, but there are better defensive players to put in left field.
Well, and it goes back to what you were talking about, how they're going to manage this bench moving forward. What happens to Alec Burleson in this whole situation? If you do bring up Victor Scott, where's Alec Burleson?
Left field.
You think he will be?
I do, because he's hit so well, and I'd put Carlson as my 4th outfielder. Here's the other thing. If Victor Scott comes up, what do you do with all these guys? I mean, do you trade somebody? Do you say that, you know what, we're going to deal with this when Tommy Edman is healthy and when Nootbaar is healthy? I mean, they're going to have some decisions to make. And again, in baseball, it always seems to kind of take care of itself. Burleson does have options. So if he doesn't hit, you could send him to the minor leagues and make sure you keep your players. But it is an interesting dynamic as they move forward.
It is interesting, too, that we are trying to avoid another outfield logjam like we did last season, but we're right back there.
Absolutely. Let's see. Golf, take or leave it.
Okay.
You have no soul if you don't get choked up during the Keegan Bradley episodes of Full Swing 2. Have you seen Full Swing 2?
I have not. That's on my list to watch because I know that it just came out.
It is awesome.
Oh, really, Danny? So, a couple guys crying didn't make it a weird episode for you?
It didn't make me cry.
Okay, fair enough.
They asked me if I choked up. I did not.
So he has to leave it for that reason because he didn't.
Yeah.
Or he's saying he has no soul.
Really?
of all
From
people.
the person who doesn't believe in
That's the
souls?
premise that the text laid out. It's
Rock,
not me at all.
calm down. Don't yell. It's all good.
No
I think I'm
souls.
like reacting like that or just
I don't know.
playing it up. Take it or leave it. SLU, if they're not going to go all in on NIL, just needs to go back to the MVC.
I would love to see them in the MVC anyway.
God, no, leave it.
Wouldn't that be a step? Nothing
Yes.
against the MVC. Wouldn't that be a step back, possibly?
I think most people would look at it as a mid-major as opposed to the A10. I would imagine that one of their first things when they went to the A10 is that they thought that would be a step towards getting in the Big East, and it just hasn't happened.
You don't go backwards in conference affiliation this day and age. You always go forward. You never go backwards. Raise your game to make. I mean,
What
I'm
about
not.
having your postseason tournament in your backyard?
Yeah, it's fine.
You don't think that would help?
I don't. I think.
I'm just looking at boxes to check in the positive.
In the grand scheme of things, it's nice the MVC tournament's here, but the MVC is a lower conference than the A10 in most people's minds. You don't go backwards in conference affiliation. Their NIL is reportedly I've seen as high as third in the A10, so they're not. It's not like they're the bottom dweller of their current conference in the NIL. So just based off that being like the leading premise, I'm going to say leave it because clearly they can compete NIL with their current conference, and you don't go backwards in conference affiliation.
Here's the thing. They have to get better at NIL. I
Yes,
don't
they do.
care
Yeah.
if they're playing in the ACC. That part and the transfer portal's got to change. This situation they got right away. Right away. It needs to change.
Yeah, it really does. Maybe one more text, Rock?
Take it or leave it. Every single NFL free agent will sign before Snell or Montgomery.
Oh. I might have to take
like
that
that.
at
Might
this
have to
point.
take it, too.
You might. I mean, that is absolutely insane that that's happening. Every once in a while, I have to remind myself that they're still out there.
By the way, good point here. MVC should have 2 teams in tournament play this year. A10, probably just 1.
Oh.
It's a valid point. And if they get 2 in, the MVC gets 2 in. Just saying, Rock. Just saying.
I mean,
Don't
okay,
discount the Valley.
isolate 1 year. The A10's like had 3 bad years where they've been in a 1-bid conference, but there's a decade before that where the A10 was consistently a 2- and 3-bid conference.
So is the MVC. They had times that they were a 3-bid
They have
conference.
2, but I'm just saying you can't use one year, one down year from the A10 is and one really hot year from Indiana State and Drake as well. This is the sign that the MVC is better.
What about from
Come
the
on
fan
now.
perspective and regional rivalries and making this as fun as you can with Southern Illinois? You know that Chicago folks are going to travel. You got the Valley sending Drake down here with their crew. I mean, you see
You have
how
Belmont
Wichita
now?
State, Belmont. I mean, there's a lot. SIU, by the way, beat SLU by 40.
Yeah, and SLU's
That
worst
happened.
season in 20 years. It's an outlier again.
Okay.
That's
It
all.
happens.
That's all. You don't go backwards. It's admitting defeat.
Isn't it sad, though, that in college sports in general, that when you're talking about the regional rivalries, I 100% agree with you, but we've gotten so far away from that in college sports in general.
I can't tell you, by the way, the majority of players who are playing college basketball. I used to tell you every name and where
Yeah.
he went to school, and I loved it, and I knew more about it, and I can't. I don't know if other people are like this, and I love college basketball, and I watch it every single night right now. Watch it a ton during this run, this season, this winter, and I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that guy? He was with this team. Wait a minute. Hold on. What's going on
It's like,
here?
wait a minute, where did that person come
Exactly.
from? Yeah, I
Trying
thought
to
you were over
follow
there.
it.
It's hard.
It is
really,
hard.
really is. Well, that is take it or leave it. Thanks, Rocc, by the way, for reading the text. And Dan, coming up next, we're going to discuss everything with the outfield battle currently right now. As we mentioned earlier, Tommy Edman will start the season on the IL. So what do you think that the outfield should look like for opening day? We're going to discuss that coming up next here on the Opening Drive.
Opening Drive on 101. A fresh perspective on the day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
Welcome back to the Opening Drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocc here, and it is time for our Fresh Take. We were discussing this earlier because right now you thought that the Cardinals had a pretty set outfield going into the season. You were going to have Lars Nootbaar, you were going to have Tommy Edman, and then you were also going to have Jordan Walker. But now, 2/3 of what was supposed to be your starting outfield to start the season is injured, Dan, and that's the position that we're in right now. Just a quick update. As we know, Tommy Edman will now start the season on the injured list as he's still recovering from his right wrist surgery that he had back in October. And then Lars Nootbaar will be reevaluated this Saturday, so we'll get an update on him. So right now, you're seeing a lot of different pieces during the spring training of what they could put in the outfield. I'm all about Victor Scott as your center fielder. We know that Dylan Carlson is still in the mix. Alec Burleson, we've seen him out there. And yesterday, we saw Brendan Donovan in left field, and he looks pretty good out there defensively.
Let's just give a little resume here on Victor Scott. And I know that the fans are wanting to see him just going on the text line. Of course, that is the pulse of the fan base when you get the text line. Victor Scott. 163 minor league games, only 66 have come at Double-A. So you're asking him to make the jump from Double-A to the major leagues. He had 94 steals last year. His success rate was 87%. If you include the Arizona Fall League, he had 112 stolen bases. 112. That's incredible. Right now, he is 9 for his last 18. They're putting him at the top of the lineup. They're putting him in center field. And as you go along in spring training, you start to see what the everyday lineup may be or more regulars as you move along. So he's still in camp. They're giving him every chance potentially to make this team. Defensively, he's won a minor league Gold Glove. He hits from the left side. That is something that you look for, left side. And he's not just a slap hitter. He gives you more than that. He's got a little bit more pop than you might anticipate. He puts so much pressure on a defense. I love seeing that. Mm-hmm. He's going to make guys make mistakes on the other side. And here's the number one thing I think. This is supposed to be entertainment. This is supposed to be sports and fun and entertainment. And if you added Victor Scott to your lineup, and if you don't think he's going to get buried at the major league level, then I would say bring him up and give him every chance to show what he can do and let the fans enjoy the speed and the excitement that he brings to a lineup every single day.
Because it's the things that we've been wanting to see. And Dan, as you know, we were discussing this yesterday about how to make baseball more interesting for the younger fan base. And one of the ways to do it is to have exciting players like Victor Scott. As you know, when Harrison Bader was around, how many times did you look around the ballpark with little kids and who was the name on the back of their jerseys?
Absolutely. It was Harrison Bader.
And also, they were wearing the headband.
Yep.
Children pick up on stuff like that, and that's the reason why they get into sports. I feel like everybody, when you were starting to get into sports when you were younger, it was typically a flashy, really fun player that almost seemed kid-like. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. I'm saying the way that they look like they're fully enjoying the game, and they're just competing hard every single night.
You guys asked me, who are you most looking forward to coming into spring training? And I said Victor Scott. And then I had to go back and say, well, why did I feel that way? Because I wanted to see something different.
Yeah.
I wanted to see some speed. And with the new rules that are implemented in Major League Baseball, if the Cardinals aren't down 4-0 every game, he should be stealing. Hell, even if they are down 4-0 with this guy, he should be stealing. He should be someone that when he gets on base that you can't wait to watch. You don't turn away because he's going to do something that the Cardinals haven't done in many years, which is steal bases. A ball in the gap. He's going to score from first to third, even if it's in left center. His speed plays. And I do think for the older fan, including myself, is that I go back to the days of Whitey Ball, and you just don't see it anymore.
No.
But Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith, Willie McGee, and they ran all over the place. That was so entertaining to watch, and this is supposed to be entertainment.
Because you were dialed into every single moment. Now, we got a couple texts in, because I saw this yesterday, too, and I want to ask you about this, Dan, from the 3 and 4, where people are wondering if this feels similar to the Albert Pujols situation in 2001. And nobody's saying that he's going to be Albert Pujols, because that's a future Hall of Famer right there. But still, do you see any similarities to that?
Sure. Now, Albert went out and hit, I think, 330 in his rookie season and popped over 30. I think it was 34 home runs and took the league by storm. I'm not saying that this guy will do that, but will he bring entertainment and excitement? I do think that. And by the way, as we transition here, somebody that pitched well yesterday was Lance Lynn. We had Benji Molina in studio a couple of days ago, and he talked about going from a young player like Victor Scott to the veteran leadership that Lance Lynn can provide.
Now you bring Lance Lynn. Yeah, he looks like he got ejected and he's, fighting with umpires. But who knows if that's what they need. We have, like I always say, since I've been doing this, we have way too many nice guys. When the good Cardinals, back in the days, they were nice. They weren't nice on the field. They could be the nicest guys outside. But when you went on the field, it's like a fight out there. I mean, not literally fight, because we had our share of fights, but it is a fight against that other team.
Sure.
Now it's more like, okay, we need to win. Okay, yeah, we need to win. We lost. Okay, all right, let's go home. You know what I'm saying?
I think about Albert Pujols. I think about Vina. I think Renteria. I think Roland. I think Molina. Who else? Larry Walker, Jimmy Edmonds.
There's so many.
Tony
Did you already say
La Russa?
Chris Carpenter? I mean,
Chris Carpenter.
The intimidation when they went out there, just how intimidating that they were, that would freak me out. And that's what you want. Of course, you want the good guys off the field, but I want the guys that once they go out there into the game, they're completely locked in. You can feel the intensity in that game.
The other thing is the opposition. I remember Lance Berkman, when he got to St. Louis, said, I cannot stand Tony La Russa. And now I play for him and I love him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think that this team needs a little rusty nail, and certainly Lance Lynn is a guy that gives you that.
Well, it's kind of like anything in life, right? If you are being nice, gets you a lot of places, but also if you showcase that you're easy to walk all over, then people will take advantage of that. And sometimes it feels like that, especially last season with how things went with the Cardinals. I don't know if there was times where other teams thought that they were intimidating. They didn't feel, it seemed like, intimidating at times.
They talked about how they needed leadership in the clubhouse. Well, you got your young guys in Walker, you got Wynn, you got Victor Scott. So that's how we started this segment. Then you have the experience of the pitching staff, the experience at third, experience at first, experience behind the catcher or behind the plate with your catcher. So getting a mix of the youth and the old, or I should say,
seasoned. That's what we decided. Seasoned.
I don't
that's
need
the best
these
way.
rusty nails getting mad at me.
Exactly. But that's the thing. You know that they would throw it back too, because that's the thing, is that they are intimidating. They're a strong presence. You like to see that, and I'm glad that they have more of that this season, and just let them showcase their personalities.
100%.
Let them be who they need to be. Well, that's Dan. I'm Brooke. Coming up next, we are going to head to the celebrity line to talk to Robert Thomas about the Blues 4-game homestand that's coming up next here on the Opening Drive.
on ESPN.
Thomas score!
Getting you inside the Blues locker room.
What a goal by Robert Thomas!
It's time now for Blues forward Robert Thomas on the opening drive.
Driven by Pure Performance, the only stop for all your aftermarket vehicle needs.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocc here, and we go to the celebrity line to talk to Blues center Robert Thomas. Robert, how are you doing today?
Doing well, guys. Thanks.
All right. Now, I know that you guys had the day off, and it was still a busy night for you guys for a great cause. How was the Blues Casino night that benefits St. Louis Children's Hospital?
Yeah, it was really awesome. It's a great event every year. They do a great job putting it on, and it's something a little different where you get to be a casino dealer. So it's an exciting event, and obviously for such a great cause in the Children's Hospital.
So you have to be a casino dealer. Do you guys practice beforehand, or what is that like for you?
No, don't practice at all. And my first couple of roulette spins were a little shaky, to say the least.
Was there a big winner? Did we have maybe a youngster win at a casino night, or some parents? Who was the big winner and took home some prizes?
I'm not sure on the prizes, but I know there's a lot of happy people leaving my table, so it was good.
A lot of happy people. Is that because they might have taken advantage of you maybe not being the best casino dealer?
Yeah, the ball might have slipped on the red 18 a couple times.
I love it. Hey, let's get to some hockey here for just a moment. And looking at this weekend, it seems like every time you take the ice, it's like the biggest game of the year. But how do you approach this weekend at home and back-to-back games?
Yeah, really important. We got some good momentum going. We've played really well the last two games, and obviously Minnie's right in the rush with us. So that's a really important game, and pretty much every game going on down the stretch is really important. So I think it's keeping up the momentum and continuing to play hard and give ourselves the best chance to win.
Now, going back to last week, Robert, the trade deadline has come and gone now. What was the feeling like afterwards, knowing that this is the team that you have in place and nobody got moved?
Yeah, you know what? It was nice. I feel like we had underachieved all year, and I feel like we're really coming together now. So I'm glad no one was moved, and it's an exciting time to be right in the rush and be right in kind of the rush to the playoffs. And, it's a fun time of year. So we're really excited.
How much fun is it for you guys to see this third line really produce and what they're doing on a night in and night out basis?
Yeah, they've been excellent the last two games. They've really carried the team, whether it's just their play or, they've been able to score a couple goals lately, which is awesome. But, the way they're playing and creating momentum for the team and doing tons of things right that get everyone else going in the right direction. So I think they're really leading the charge.
Yeah, and they really have, especially with the secondary scoring and some of the young guys, what they've been able to do. We've talked a lot on this show the past couple of days about Jake Neighbors and Alexei Toropchenko. What else can you say about those guys and how much they've stepped up?
Yeah, we're a team that we need everyone to win, and I think that's what the last two games have shown everyone is, we have tons of players that can create offense and be big contributors. So I think my alarm was going off there.
Are you okay? Your alarm was going off for practice, I assume?
It was snoozed a couple times.
Sorry to wake you up this morning.
It's really important that, everyone's chipping in and, two big games against big time teams in Boston and LA, and everyone shows up and we need everyone to win.
Kind of tell us a little bit about their personalities, too, because Alexei Toropchenko seems like a very big, intimidating, but maybe funny guy. And then Jake Neighbors, he calls himself a throwback player, so he seems like maybe an old soul.
Yeah, both different personalities. Torpo, obviously, English is a second language, so it's a little bit different, but he's like a jokester. He loves kind of, chirping at guys and He's kind of a little bit quieter, but he's really funny to be around. And Jake's the complete opposite. He's loud, and you can always hear him talking. So, those two guys have really done a good job this year.
Drew Bannister at times has been able to shake up that top line, which does affect you. How do you try to get rhythm when new guys are put on your line, and then the next shift it changes? And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. You see some new faces, but what's that like in trying to find a rhythm with players that are kind of in and out of that top line at times?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I think, you play with everyone throughout the year at some point pretty much. So, you kind of watch and are used to, everyone's style of play. So I don't think it's too hard. I think you just kind of get going, and it all kind of fits in.
Matthew Kessel signing a 2-year one-way contract the other day with the Blues. While it's just been a small sample size that we've seen with him, what changes has he brought to the team defensively?
Yeah, he's done a really good job. Since he's been up, I think he moves the puck really well. He defends hard. I think he's been a really good partner for Kruger. Those two have played really well together, and he's done a ton of good things since he's been up, and deserves every bit of that contract.
Jordan Binnington had 40 saves the other night, and the tandem of Binnington and Hofer has been one of the best and probably top 5 in the NHL, looking at the tandems. How does that allow you to maybe take some chances because you know that these guys are going to come through?
Yeah, if you look at all the best teams in the league, they have, really strong 1-2 goalie tandem, and, that's what we have, and that's something that we've relied on for many years now is great goaltending, and that's what you need to be a good team, and so we have the goaltending, and now it's just on us to score some goals.
So you wake up early in the morning, we wake you up. Are you getting awake now doing this interview, or are you kind of just sleepwalking through this thing?
No, I've been up for a bit. There's a long story why this alarm was going off, but yeah, it's been a hectic morning.
It's been a hectic morning.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it. I know that these are early mornings for pro athletes, and you've been so kind to us throughout the season, and we'll make sure and catch up next week and wake you up at about 5.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
You got it.
Thanks,
that is Robert Thomas from the St. Louis Blues. We do appreciate that.
We do. Now I'm very curious what this hectic story is.
I know.
You see, you're better than me. I'm a lot more nosy, and I would have kept pushing it for that.
I don't want to know. Their life away from the rink is their life, and I don't want to
so
deal.
we opened the door, so it's just it's continuing the conversation. How about I phrase it in that way, Dan?
I like that. So downtown St. Louis was busy. We talked about in the first segment that you were doing the XFL, or not the XFL, the
UFL.
UFL.
It's okay. I keep forgetting about that as well, because it wasn't too long ago that they announced the merger with the XFL and USFL, and now it's just the UFL.
So what did Coach Becht have to say? I mean, did he like pull back the curtain a little bit, or was it just like the same old standard answers?
No, he was able to really answer a lot of questions about what the vision is for the UFL and some of the rules. It's a lot of the same rules as what you saw with the XFL. Not really, in my opinion, that many big changes, but they've been in training camp for about 3 weeks now, and so he talked about some of the players returning, AJ McCarron returning. So it was, though, more of just hyping up the fans to get them ready for the season.
I would assume that AJ McCarron moves the needle with this fan base.
Oh, when I said his name yesterday, Dan, you should have heard the place in Ballpark Village.
I bet they love it. Yeah. He's a recognizable face. He's the QB, so he's the guy that kind of moves the needle a little bit.
He does. And he obviously cares about St. Louis a lot because he wanted to come back here.
Are you ready for the fight?
I guess so, Dan. I'm ready for Randy to get back so he can take over the fight, because I get so nervous every single day going into this thing.
Don't be nervous.
I know.
Like I said, get the puck deep.
What Joey said. Namaste. Deep breaths.
Net front presence.
Greasy goals.
110%. You'll get, you'll be just fine.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. The fight is coming up next on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues off yesterday and tonight. They'll be back in action with a back-to-back over the weekend. Game 1 against the Wild, 7 p.m. puck drop, 6 p.m. pregame right here on 101 ESPN. Game 2 against the Ducks will be a 6 p.m. puck drop, so that 5 p.m. pregame right here on 101 ESPN. Also over the weekend, St. Louis City SC travels to L.A. to face off against the Galaxy for a late kickoff, 9:30 p.m. here in the Central Time Zone, and they will be without Edward Leuven as he has a hamstring injury that he suffered on Wednesday. St. Louis City is saying that they are being careful to not put a timeline on his return and that they will reevaluate in 2 weeks. That is your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American State heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Hey, coming up next segment, we're going to ask you who will be the leader of the Cardinals this season. It could be anybody, so who would be the leader of the Cardinals? And get your texts in at 314-399-9646. That's coming up in our next segment. But this is the fight. Brooke will be fighting Bill. Bill, good morning. Welcome to 101 ESPN.
Good morning, sir.
All right, away we go. Which Major League Baseball franchise is the only one with over 11,000 losses? Was it the Phillies, the Cubs, or the Pirates?
I feel like the Pirates would be the obvious, but we're going to go ahead and go Cubs.
Well, even if you're wrong, I think people will appreciate that. Question 2.
Which program holds the honor as the winners of the inaugural tournament in college basketball back in 1939? Was that UCLA, Oregon, or Kansas?
We'll go UCLA.
Okay, question 3. There are 2 college programs to produce 5 first overall picks since the beginning of the Super Bowl era. Oklahoma, and which other program? Is it Stanford, Notre Dame, or USC?
You said first overall picks? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
5 first overall picks since the beginning of the Super Bowl era. Oklahoma, and which other program? Stanford, Notre Dame, or USC?
Try USC.
In the top 50 of the NFL's career receptions list, there is one player who never caught a playoff pass. Who is it? Chad Johnson, Charlie Joyner, or Brandon Marshall?
What were the options? One more time, I'm sorry.
Chad Johnson, Charlie Joyner, or Brandon Marshall?
So the Joyner.
All right.
Charlie Joyner.
Double check our score. We will bring in Brooke Grimsley.
So, Bill, have you ever been in the fight against Randy?
Yeah, one time. It didn't go well.
Didn't go well? How badly did he beat you?
Well, he got the jack and I got 2.
Okay. Brooke has made her way in. She's going to put on the headset, and away we go with the fight. So, Brooke, say good morning to Bill.
Good morning, Bill.
Oh, your mic would be helpful there.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
Brooke, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Question 1. Which Major League Baseball franchise is the only one with over 11,000 losses? Am I giving I'm giving the options, correct? Or do you have to ask for the options?
If I have to ask, and I think I'm going to ask for this one just in case.
Okay. Which Major League Baseball franchise is the only one with over 11,000 losses? The Phillies, the Cubs, or the Pirates?
I want to say the Pirates, but it might be recency bias on my part. I feel like there's probably some trickery going on here, just based off Rocc sometimes likes to add a little trickery possibly. No, he's shaking his head.
That's an accusation with no facts behind it.
I've witnessed a lot
not
here.
A single fact.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Repeat again. Who are the options?
So which MLB franchise is the only one with over 11,000 losses? The Phillies, the Cubs, or the Pirates?
The Pirates used to be really good back in the day. I think I might have to go, though, with the Phillies. Sorry, I drug that out.
No problem. Question 2, please.
It's all about strategy. Which college program holds the honor as the winners of the inaugural tournament in college basketball back in 1939?
I'm going to need the options for that.
Was it UCLA, Oregon, or Kansas?
UCLA, Oregon, or Kansas? Feels like UCLA, so I'm going to go UCLA.
Question 3.
I wasn't alive back then, by the way, in 1939, so that
Not many of us were.
No.
There are 2 college programs to produce 5 first overall picks since the beginning of the Super Bowl era. Oklahoma and which other program? Options?
I might need to. These are good ones today, Rocc. These
Thank
are
you.
not that they're never not. Sorry.
Stanford, Notre Dame, or USC? So there are 2 college programs that have 5 first overall picks since the beginning of the Super Bowl era. Oklahoma is one of them.
Okay.
And which other program? Stanford, Notre Dame, or USC?
I want to go with Notre Dame.
Final answer.
Final answer.
And question 4, please.
In the top 50 of the NFL's career receptions list, there's only one player who's never caught a playoff pass. Who was it?
Who was it? Okay. I'm sorry. I might have to get options on this too. I'm not completely.
I went trickier today. My apologies.
No, you're.
I had to
but here's the thing,
dig for
that's
today's
fine.
questions.
Yeah.
I was having trouble finding good ones.
Yeah.
In the top 50 of the NFL's career receptions list, there is one player who never caught a playoff pass. Who is it? Was that Chad Johnson, Charlie Joyner, or Brandon Marshall?
Ooh, all good options. But I think Brandon Marshall is the correct answer here. Even
All
though
right.
maybe Chad. Okay, no, I'm going to go with my gut.
All right, it was a tricky fight today, and it was a close one here. Only a 1-question win. Is Bill able to take down the Grim Reaper? Something we're all going to try to do at some point in our life.
Oh, jeez. Oh, God.
Does Bill take down the Grim Reaper, or does Grimsley just keep rolling on through with another victory? Ring that bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis, with the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
Just win, baby. Was that a good volume level for you,
Sure,
Danny?
that was better.
Sorry, people were very mad we didn't have the song earlier, so I had to make sure we did the sound effects today. For Brooke Grimsley's 2-1 victory over Bill. Bill, nice try, but she just barely edged you out.
Yeah, those were terrible.
Those were, oh my God, Bill.
Damn, Bill.
I feel like we should be financially compensated
Cut
for
right
some
to the
of
quick.
those.
You are getting zero money from me. That's for damn sure. Which MLB
Bill
franchise
has
is
it.
the
Okay,
only
Bill.
one with over 11,000 losses? They've been around the entire run of things. The Philadelphia Phillies. They're actually a below 500 team, just over 10,000 wins, but the only franchise with over 11,000 losses. Which program holds the honor as the winners of the inaugural tournaments in college basketball in 1939? That was actually Oregon who took down the very first ever NCAA tournament. UCLA, by the way, they have 11 championships, 10 of them won by John Wooden. The 11th? 1995, which I think people kind of forget about, that they kind of just pulled one off there in the middle
Jim
of the 90s.
Herron, wasn't it?
What?
Jim Herron?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, the coach. And so, yeah, they did pull off one after John Wooden, not before. 2 college programs to produce 5 first overall picks since the beginning of the Super Bowl era, and it looks like the number 6 is going to happen this year, as USC looks like they're going to pull out ahead of Oklahoma.
Okay.
USC currently sitting at 5, Oklahoma sitting at 5. Also, there are some other programs like Notre Dame that do have 5 first overall picks, but Notre Dame was really good in those 40s, 50s, 60s areas before the Super Bowl drafts. So Notre Dame actually does have 5 first-round pick, but there's a couple in the 50s there that take them out of that question.
So
My
it kind of
apologies.
counts.
No.
We get half a point, right?
If that was Randy, he'd be staring like a hole through my soul right now. And he'd be like, oh, yeah, because only Super Bowl era years matter in the NFL, apparently. So you can go ahead
So
and...
technically, I should get like half a point,
You're 100% right.
Dan?
And that's the one that Bill. And that's the one that Bill got. So you would have beat him anyhow if we're giving out half points anyway.
You went with Notre Dame.
Yeah, and they already have 5.
Yeah.
And Stanford, by the way, has 4. 3 of them are quarterbacks. In the top 50 of the NFL's career receptions list, there was one player who never caught a playoff pass. Who is it? Tell you what, this is a tough question. Chad Johnson jumps out. He only had 7. Charlie Joyner had only 30. Brandon Marshall, 940 career regular season catches, almost got to 1,000. He's 16th all-time in the NFL's career receptions list. Not a single playoff reception for Brandon Marshall, the only one in the top 50 of the NFL's list. I'm sorry the questions were so poor, Bill. We'll try to get you next time when you join us on The Fight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm happy I wasn't shut out.
There you go. That's a great way to think about it, Bill.
All right, coming up, we asked the listeners. We're going to hear a little bit from BT on added leadership with the club. But we're also going to ask you, who will be the leader of the Cardinals? A lot of choices because there's seasoning with this team. Seasoning, not old players, but seasoning. So the text line is 314-399-9646, and that's coming up on 101 ESPN.
It's time for a DraftKings at Casino Queen Redbird report on 101 ESPN.
Brooke Grimsley here for your Redbird report. In the Cardinals' scoreless tie against the Mets yesterday, Lance Lynn making his second start of the spring without any ejections and another solid start. Lynn pitching 4 scoreless innings, giving up only 1 hit. He also didn't walk a hitter and recorded 4 strikeouts. On the injury front, Cardinals with an update on Tommy Edman. He will begin the season on the injured list. He will not swing a bat again for at least a week as he still works on recovering from his offseason surgery on his right wrist. Sonny Gray with another bullpen session yesterday. The next step is seeing how he recovers today, according to the Cardinals. Your Redbirds will be back in action later today against the Marlins. First pitch is at 5:05 with Steven Matz on the mound.
The Redbird Report is presented by DraftKings at Casino Queen. Play, stay, dine at DraftKings at Casino Queen.
Auto Center's Nissan Herculaneum. They've got over 700 vehicles all in one location. You can start at AutoCentersNissan.com. You can peruse the vehicles that they have right there online and then head out to Auto Center's Nissan Herculaneum and you can test drive new vehicles. How about a new Nissan Altima up to $4,000 off MSRP? Finance for only $499 down and only $499 a month for 84 months. It's not a lease, and that offer is good throughout the month of March. They got great deals on other vehicles as well, not just new Nissans, they have pre-owned vehicles too. So if you're looking for cars, trucks, SUVs, Auto Centers Nissan Herculaneum, they've got it right there in one location. 30-day new car return promise, complimentary lifetime warranty, complimentary 1-year maintenance as well, all courtesy of Auto Centers Nissan Herculaneum. So when you head out there, tell them Stalter sent you. It's fun to be out there. They make it a great time. Their sales team is fantastic. Financing options for everyone. Again, visit them at AutoCentersNissan.com or head out to Herculaneum. It's Auto Centers Nissan.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
If you've been injured in a car wreck, you need the best. Onderlaw, voted 2023's best law firm in St. Louis. We know how to handle the insurance companies, and we'll make sure you're compensated for physical, emotional, and financial injuries. Let us make your case our cause. Car accident? Call Onderlaw today for a free review. 314 or 618-90000. That's 314 or 618-9 all zeros.
It's time to fly down to Florida for a spring training report on 101 ESPN.
Presented by E&B Granite, Brooke, Jamie, Curbs, and Bernie Federko's choice for countertops and cabinets.
And that's the same thing with Matt Carpenter. There were multiple young players that have already gone into the office and talked to Ollie and basically saying, hey, thanks for bringing this guy in. Like he is a culture guy. And I understand, right? A lot of fans I know when the signing happened, I was on Twitter or X or whatever it is nowadays. Fans were not clamoring for Matt Carpenter coming back. We don't realize, and Dan, you know this very well, you've been in the game, you've been around this organization your entire life. Not everybody realizes how important having a guy like that is. And he has helped out so many young guys already. He still has to be able to help you win baseball games from a physical standpoint. I believe he can do that. He'll play some first for you when Goldie needs a day off. He can be a DH option. He can be a bat off the bench. But he has meant so much in just accountability of the way to do things right within this organization.
That is BT analyst for the Cardinals on Bally Sports Midwest. And we were talking to him the other day about Matt Carpenter. Also, all the seasoned, as we have now coined it, seasoned leadership that you have currently in the Cardinals clubhouse. It seems like that was a big emphasis this past offseason for the Cardinals to make sure they could bring in more of that leadership, maybe to help not only elevate this team, but also alleviate some of the pressure from Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. And I know as soon as I say that, some people will say, wait a minute. They should be okay with having that pressure on them because it's Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. Why can they not lead this team? They were leading this team, but I think that it was a different type of leadership that they're wanting to bring in, and that's why it's so great to have Matt Carpenter in, because Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt wanted him in this clubhouse. And also, when you talk about getting back to that Cardinals way, I think that he also knows what it takes to win. And to me, the Cardinals way is winning.
I think it's also what have you done in the past? So you come in and you have a resume to where players will listen, even if you are on the back end of your baseball life, which is certainly the case with some of these guys and Matt Carpenter, no disrespect, but they're veterans. I mean, they're past their primes in talking about Matt Carpenter, but instantly when he talks to you, you get a sense that this guy has been through the wars and understands what it takes to be a major league player. And it's not just, what you do between the white lines, but some of the things that you do in terms of the travel and being around with young players and trying to help them along. It's a lot. I mean, you have to take on a lot as a young player. So first of all, having that resume, having done it for a long time will help. I'd be really interested with the young players, Cole Roby, Graceffo, these young pitchers that were around Sonny Gray, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, Miles Michaelis, what that was like here in spring, because pitchers gravitate towards pitchers, position players towards position players. So I'm not worried about leadership with the rotation. I would look at what are you going to have from an everyday leader on the field. And Brendan Donovan seems to be one of those guys too. But it's not only what you've done in the past, but you can lead by example too. You don't have to be vocal, but you need to lead by how you perform on the field. And that's how leaders are built.
Well, it seems like now you have a lot of vocal leaders and a lot of leaders by example. I think when you talk about Brendan Donovan, he's the combination of both. He leads by example with his play, but also he's a very vocal leader. It always struck me during winter warmups how many of the younger players and even veteran players, Dan, pointed out that Brendan Donovan is a great leader, has been working with a lot of the hitters, and isn't afraid to go and talk to guys about what they could do to improve. And it seems like he's an open book, and that's something that even Sonny Gray has talked about, is that he wants to be an open book for his teammates.
I love the 314 here. I hadn't thought about this, but does it help that Carpenter's dad was a coach? He not only played, but maybe he can teach. I think there's a lot to that. I think coming from a baseball background, that helps. And back to Brendan Donovan, he's got a background of a military family. I think there's something there with discipline and what it takes to be a leader. And also, when Brendan Donovan first arrived on the scene, he showed up and listened. You can't just come in a clubhouse and be loud, because that'll turn off players. He came in, listened, watched how it's done, observed, and that makes a big difference too.
Well, the military background, I think, is very interesting, because coming from a long military background myself, my dad was a Marine, his dad was a Marine. And
always a Marine.
And always, yes, always a Marine. You can always tell, because if you're raised a certain way. Now, he is way more than a military bred. I didn't move around like he did. He was born in Germany because of his father and everything that he did with the Marines. But even, my uncles were Air Force, Navy. I had a long list in the military. So I understand kind of that upbringing where it teaches you a lot of discipline. And that was something that I noticed from Brendan Donovan from the beginning, because when I went over to his locker to talk to him for the first time, he had a military saying right there in his locker. And I was like, you have to be military. You have to be. And he talks very openly about how it really has challenged him and shaped him into the person that he is today, because you need a lot of discipline. When you're raised in that way, especially with his father, it sounds like, then you are raised with a lot of discipline, a lot of structure, and you also know how to really have that confidence within yourself.
I got to ask you, what was it like? Marine dad.
My dad, and he listens every single day, so he's going to be listening right now.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Yes, thank you, Dad, Steve. He's the best dad. He is so kind. He got me into sports, but I will say, and even my mother was really good about this as well. They just taught me a lot of structure and discipline. It was, even things like every morning bed has to be made up. Everything in my life was very structured and disciplined, and I would go over to other kids' houses, and it would be like, oh, they could do whatever they want. They didn't have as many rules, and I thought that was cool when I was younger. But then as I got older, I see why it has worked out so much, because I can hold myself accountable a little bit more. I'm also able to be a lot more disciplined in my daily tasks and activities, and it does help you a lot. But with Donovan, everything that he's done, and he also does a lot to give back to our military veterans, which is something that I greatly appreciate.
You know what would happen with all this stuff, and then you wouldn't hear about leadership or issues in the clubhouse or young guys, old guys. Pretty simple. Win.
Yes.
If you win, some of these issues go away. So that's something to think about, too. I mean, if you just win, you don't hear a lot of these things come to the surface, and you may have problems under the surface. I mean, the mid-'70s teams of the Oakland A's had all kinds of stuff going on, but what they do, they won games.
Yeah,
so
it all goes away.
You win games. That stuff kind of has a way of going away.
It really does. So we have a text here from the 3 and 4, which is something, sorry, I'll be quick about this because we do have to go to break soon, but I mean this with all due respect. How many games under 500 will the Cardinals have to be for you to admit that you bought into the veteran leadership was the problem narrative, hook, line, and sinker?
Not for me. I just don't think they were talented enough to win games.
No.
I think that's a problem, and they were injured a lot. So that kind of, for me, set the tone. And the first month of the season, they were just playing catch-up. They just weren't winning games. But I do believe some type of leadership can help and right the ship. It's not the end-all, be-all, but I do think some of it does help.
It helps having guys who have been there and who have done that.
That's what I mean. The resume thing I was talking about before, and Carpenter's got that. Goldie's got that. Arenado has that. Contreras could be a leader on this team.
Mm-hmm. Crawford.
I thought for Contreras, he had to kind of ease into it. You know, when you come to a new team, you take it all in, and you're not sure where you should go after certain players or ease up on certain players, which is being a veteran. Some guys just need a hug. Some guys need to be screamed at. And I think for Contreras, it was just, hey, I'm learning a new team, and I kind of have to ease into this situation.
But I like how he handled it and how he came back from it. Well, that's Dan. I'm Brooke. Coming up next, we are going to go down to Arizona to talk to MLB Network host Greg Amsinger, and maybe he's ran into Randy somewhere on the golf course. We'll discuss that coming up next here on the Opening Drive.
It's Pick'em season in Missouri, thanks to our friends at Underdog Fantasy and their newest Pick'em product that's live in Missouri, Pick'em Champions. That's right. There is a daily fantasy Pick'em game that is currently live in Missouri, Underdog Fantasy and UnderdogFantasy.com. You just pick 2 to 5 players from at least 2 different teams. For your entry, you select higher or lower on those players' stats, and then you're going to choose an entry fee. You'll be entered alongside other underdogs, but don't worry about all that. As long as you hit your entries, you are winning your money. Like me last night, I made a great pick with Matthew Fitzpatrick in the Players' Championship, but my NBA picks didn't go so great, so I didn't hit my picks, so I'm not cashing out. But you can if you hit your picks. And again, with baseball season in full swing, Underdog Fantasy has you covered for your baseball. If you're a big Cardinals fan, a big Blues fan, big basketball fan, you can combine all 3 of those sports into one entry whenever you want. That's so easy to play with Underdog Fantasy. All their different ways to play. You can even play live if you can't get your entries in before the game. Underdog Fantasy, super easy to play and even easier to get started. You can just go to their easy-to-use mobile app, download it on your your phone or to UnderdogFantasy.com. You sign up with the promo code ROCC, and Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. Plus, they'll give you a mystery special pick on your first pick 'em entry. So if you start with 2 picks and you add a third one, you're going to go from 3x to 5x on your payout. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to get your first deposit of $10 or more up to $100 matched plus your special pick. Must be 18 plus and present in state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Because with your play call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncbgambling.org.
To the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocc here, and we are heading to Jupiter, Florida, because, I mean, Greg has been so busy. Greg Amsinger, MLB Network host, joining us right now. Greg, you were in Arizona. Now you are in Florida. You are just a busy, busy man, and we missed you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I miss my entire family there on the morning show. You guys are so great. You brighten my spirits every week. But, yeah, they're really getting the most out of my sideburns. I am going all over the country doing everything I can to promote spring training in Major League Baseball. Opening day is right around the corner. And now we've got the crescendo of my trip, which is calling the spring breakout with Mark DeRosa and Jonathan Mayo today at 2 p.m. Eastern. Marlins, Cardinals, you got to tune in. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, as you just mentioned, the spring breakout game. Now, this is something brand new where we'll be able to really see some of the top prospects, including Tink Hintz, who is pitching today for the Cardinals. What can we expect to see from this?
Well, I don't think you're going to see a lengthy outing. It's a 7-inning exhibition game. To me, I feel like this is going to be like a minor league all-star game within the organization. So each organization's top prospects are going to get a chance to strut their stuff. I mean, some of these kids are right out of high school. Thomas White was just drafted last year, and this is going to be his first taste of being in a big setting professionally. Only a couple of innings in pro ball, and that's in the low minor leagues, but he throws 97. He's the Marlins starter, and he's going to be fun to watch. But Hintz is who everybody wants to see from St. Louis. I think this guy's got number 2, number 3 projectability to him. His secondary stuff still needs developing, but they love his athleticism on the mound. They love his moxie. I look forward to seeing what he does on national television because everyone's family and friends are watching this. This is their first big debut wearing a big league uniform, so it's pretty cool.
So from the Cardinals' perspective, let's look at them. Who are you looking forward to watching today?
Well, I got to tell you, the top of the order, we already got the lineups. For Scott, I can't wait to see him, Dan. I mean, everyone's saying he might be the fastest player that wears cleats and plays baseball in this country. You guys have talked a lot about him because you've been tearing the cover off the baseball in spring training. Over 90 stolen bases last year. He's going to be fun. Mason Wynn's going to get a lot of press, a lot of pub. He's the top prospect playing in this game, and for good reason. He's the only guy that we're expecting to be a starting position player on opening day. that's playing in this game. A lot of young players, but he's going to be fun to watch. And then the Sajasi kid that they got in the Montgomery deal, you look at his minor league stats. I can't wait to press Jonathan Mayo of MLB.com and ask him why he's not in their top 100 prospects, because Baseball America had him in there. Guy had 26 home runs, played second base, hit over 300, drove in over 100 runs. That's the top of the order. That's 1, 2, 3 in the Cardinal lineup. In comparison to what the Marlins have, this is heavily favored towards St. Louis this afternoon.
What are you hearing about Victor Scott and being on the Major League team?
I think he needs to be there, Dan. What more can he prove? He's a spark plug now. Again, this is a different kind of can of worms. When Jackson Holliday breaks camp with the Baltimore Orioles, they are very confident that he's going to put together great at-bats. He won't be overwhelmed by his surroundings, and he's going to have a good chance of finishing in the top 3 for the AL Rookie of the Year. That behooves the organization because then they get a compensation draft pick, and Mike Elias loves his draft picks. He's probably going to break camp with Jackson Holliday. The St. Louis Cardinals are still wondering if Victor Scott can handle that grind on a day-to-day basis. And with Tommy Edman comes back, isn't Tommy Edman going to be the starting center fielder anyway? So then you're going to take at bats away from Victor Scott. Chances of him finishing the top 3 for the NL Rookie of the Year are probably unlikely. And then they don't get the compensation pick, and they start his clock before they wanted to. So they've got all these balls in the air right now. Everyone would love to see him bat leadoff and be an igniter for the St. Louis Cardinals on opening day. But there's a business to this, and I think that's going to be taken into account.
Now, Greg, of course, injuries are inevitable, but as we were just discussing there with the outfield, you have the Tommy Edman issue, and now you have Lars Nootbaar. He will be reevaluated on Saturday. But you mentioned Victor Scott, that you think that he should be their center fielder. But what do you think this outfield will look like for opening day?
Than the guys that are already on the roster, guys that can play the outfield, guys like Brendan Donovan. They've got guys that are athletic enough to do that. It is going to be a major hit. This is a team that's going to need to score runs, point blank. Did they improve the starting pitching? I believe so. Randy Carricker might not. I believe they did. But they're going to have to score runs. Nootbaar, an igniter, an on-base machine. That's why I still think Victor Scott has to be considered. You need somebody that's going to be a threat to kickstart a baseball game and get this offense rolling. St. Louis Cardinals are excited about Jordan Walker and everything he's going to bring in right field. I think he could be a fringy all-star performer this year. That's how confident I am in his abilities. But Tommy Edman, Dan's seen it for years. He grinds out at bats, man, and that is a big deal. It might be the most overlooked skill set that hitters have in today's game. We see so many cheap ABs, which allows a starter to get that extra 2/3 of an inning and saves their bullpen. Tommy Edman grinds out ABs. If you can get a guy in the base pass that causes havoc and makes that star fall into stress innings, I think the Cardinals really need to consider Victor Scott breaking camp with this team just because of the excitement and just the distraction that he would bring to the opposition.
We're talking to MLB Network lead host Greg Amsinger, and you touched on the starting rotation. And, of course, as you know, Sonny Gray, we are waiting to hear some more information after he threw his second bullpen session yesterday. They want to see how he recovers today. What is your concern level with Sonny Gray and his hamstring, considering that he dealt with that multiple times back in 2022?
Well, look, obviously it's not good news in any way, but it's funny. I was at Dodgers camp in Arizona, and they were really confident with having Clayton Kershaw and Walker Buehler come back in the second half of the season. They're not the only team that are operating that way. There are clubs that are like, you know what, Robbie Ray, take your time. We're the San Francisco Giants. We think we'll be within striking distance of a wild card. We're going to get you back. It's almost like a different way. Not that they're planning any injuries or anything like that, but the Cardinals like where they are in this division. I don't think this division is going to run away from them in any way. So if Sonny Gray is 100% healthy for the second half of the season, that's kind of what you signed up for. I don't think this team is in a position where they're going to be out of the race by the halfway point of 2024. So Sonny Gray being healthy for the second half is paramount. Matter of fact, all of these veterans feeling good down the stretch is the number one priority. I just don't think this division is going to run away from anybody. That's how heavy the parity is in the NL Central.
You mentioned you were at Dodgers camp, so it's like Ohtani camp. What was that like, seeing all the eyeballs around him, and how did he fare?
You know, Dan, he cut a deal that he's going to do his own thing, and that was part of the negotiation with every team that was going to be in talks with Shohei Ohtani. He does his own thing, And, Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman are pillars of the organization. To talk to them on a daily basis is so fun. They're amazing future Hall of Famers. But it's weird because they lead the culture. They're the culture drivers of that organization. And Ohtani is sort of part of it. Not really. He does his own thing. And it's an oddity to see a guy that is so wildly famous, but there's a disconnect that I sensed while I was at camp. And I just don't know if that's going to play well over 162 games. I just don't know. And from the rumblings you heard while he was in Anaheim, it was sort of the same kind of thing. So that's why I don't have the Dodgers going to the World Series. I don't. The little things like that make a marathon really long. And the regular season is long already. But to me, to see Gavin Lux move to second base and Mookie Betts go to short was already a panic button that was pushed. Dave Roberts knows with the money invested in this roster, he has to be really good. And this team's going to have to win way over 100 games. He has to go deep into October. You can see that he's feeling that pressure. If he doesn't do that, he might be on the hot seat, and he's a future Hall of Fame manager based on everything he's already done.
Yeah, that would be. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, but I was just saying, he's going to win. They have pumped a ton of resources into this roster. So it did not come off to me that the Los Angeles Dodgers with Shohei Ohtani are as much of a slam dunk as people want to say they are. Because I think the top 4 teams in baseball all reside in the National League.
Wow. I mean, and that's what I was going to touch on there, is that would be a giant disappointment, especially considering when Mookie Betts not too long ago mentioned that he knew that every game was going to be a World Series for the other teams competing against them. But what about Yamamoto? What does he look like so far?
As advertised, I mean, his stuff is premier. He got hit around a couple starts ago, but the movement of the baseball is wiffle ball-like. His fastball command, which is, when you're in camp and you see all these first-round picks and you wonder where they are, they're all in the backfields working on one thing, fastball command. If you wonder why a top-5 pick like Jack Leiter is getting an ERA over 5 in the minor leagues, it's because all these teams are fixated on getting these kids who are just dead-brain heavers in high school and college to, hey, command your 98. Don't just throw 98. This guy's got exquisite command. He might have the best command of all 4 or 5 of his pitches in the big leagues right now. I mean, that is how polished Yamamoto is. He's going to be great. I think the X factor for that rotation is Tyler Glasnow. We've never seen this guy with a full 150-inning season, and yet here he is with a monster contract. He might be the most physically gifted starter in the game. If he has a 30-start campaign, he will be a Cy Young finalist. The Dodgers walk with the NL West. But we've never seen that before from him, so that is a huge question mark. The Dodgers have the most upside of any team in the world right now. But there are still ifs. Every team has them, including the powerful Dodgers.
I want to ask you, going back to the Cardinals, and you're going around different major league clubs at spring training, just in a general sense, and they made, the roster turnover with the Cardinals was enormous from a year ago. What are baseball people saying about, especially the rotation? Sonny Gray, 34, Lynn, 37, Gibson, 36, Michaelis, 35, Steven Matz, not a spring chicken. So what are people saying about the Cardinals in general and what they did and how things may go this season?
It's funny. It's not glass empty, glass half full. It's just there's a glass of water. No one wants to define it yet. It's so funny. There's a lot more pressure, I think, on Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt to get back to MVP level. I think that is the talk. Obviously, if you look at the age of the starting rotation, you're going to raise an eyebrow. But then you're reminded of what the rotation looked like a year ago, and you know it's an improvement. Okay? So it's hard to say the Cardinals went backwards in their starting rotation when the rotation was so bad a year ago. I think the rumblings are that Arenado and Goldschmidt, now deep into their 30s, are going to have to get back to that level. Do I think they can? Absolutely. Do I think the young guys around them have more dirt in their cleats and they're going to take their games to new heights? Yes, that's only going to make their performance better. The majority of my friends that I talk to that are analysts on MLB Network or work in the national media, they believe the Cardinals will reclaim the top spot of the NL Central. The majority of them. The team with the most upside, you can dream on the Cincinnati Reds without a doubt, and the Cubs are going to be pesky, and the Pirates are starting to put some foundational pieces together. And obviously the Brewers are going through a weird transition, but they're the Brewers, so they're always over 500. But the Cardinals, I feel people are more relaxed saying that the Cardinals will win the division than any other team in the Central. And I think that's all signs pointing towards the decisions that were made were the correct ones. I think John Mozeliak knew he had a budget. The whole regional sports landscape is affecting how people spend money, but they did the right thing within their parameters, and I think they're the most confident pick to win the NL Central this year.
We are still waiting we're on the watch here. I mean, we cannot stop. This is big-time stuff. So Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, still unsigned. What is going to happen with those two?
It's crazy. If you would have told me when the winter started that these guys might miss opening day, I'd be like, there's no way. No way. It can't happen. I really believe that the New York Yankees have to sign one of these guys. They have to. I mean, the Garrett Cole news that he's only going to be out 1 to 2 months, that sounds good. But then you're wondering what he's going to be like when he comes back. They're all in. Brian Cashman is on the hot seat. Let's be honest with ourselves. He's on the hot seat. He has got to go deep into the postseason. If he does not, he's gone. And so is Aaron Boone. So to have these two guys out there that will take the ball and be better than what you currently have at the moment, because Rodon is a complete question mark, even though you spent over $160 million on him. Nestor Cortez, he's thrifty. I like that, but I don't know if thrifty can be dominant every fifth day. This team needs to figure it out, and one of those two guys have to be wearing pinstripes. I believe one of them will. Other than that, I mean, maybe A.J. Preller can pull another rabbit out of his hat. I mean, maybe he'll bring back Blake Snell for a crazy 1 year, $50 million deal so he can reset the market and prove that it wasn't his second aberration season in his career. But for me, those are the only two teams I'm looking at right now. Everyone else is kind of they're sitting on their hands. Like, we're good without either one of you guys. So it's crazy to see where their market is, but at some point they're going to be wearing a baseball uniform. I got to believe it.
Now, Greg, I know that you're in Florida right now, but you were in Arizona, and so was Randy Carricker, and he was down there. Did you guys ever see each other, happen to run across him on a golf course somewhere?
No, he did text me, and I did hook our boy up with great seats for the Giants and Dodgers. He saw Shohei hit a bomb, took a beautiful picture, a wonderful selfie with his son. I could share it with all of you, and you put it online. But, yeah, I had to hook up the king, and I did. And but I was so busy while I was there was no way I could squeak away. We tried to hook up. I think he got there like my last night. And that was, anything Randy Carricker asked me to do, I will do it for Randy Carricker. So he enjoyed Shohei, and I think Glasnow threw 5 in the third no-hit innings that day. So Randy was smiling in the seats.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm going to make note of this. Ask Greg for great tickets. All right, that's in my notes now. Thank you so much for joining us, Greg.
All right, guys. Take care. I'll see you on TV.
That was MLB lead host Greg Amsinger. Excuse me, I got choked up on my water a little bit there. Lead host for MLB Network, Greg Amsinger. And as we mentioned earlier, he will be broadcasting the first of 2 spring breakout games that is happening today at 105 Central. You'll be able to see Tink Hintz on the mound. Coming up next, we have our rush hour reset.
biggest sports stories of the day on the opening drive with a Rush Hour Reset.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocc here, and it is now time for our Rush Hour Reset. So we were discussing this earlier. The Cardinals yesterday with a 0-0 draw, which should be illegal. I've been saying that because we, for whatever reason, have had several ties during this spring training. Make it illegal. This isn't soccer. This is baseball. But in that game, Lance Lynn, in his second start of the spring, he did not get ejected, so that is fantastic. Another solid start for him, pitching 4 scoreless innings, giving up only 1 hit. He also didn't walk a hitter and recorded 4 strikeouts.
Had to finish his bullpen session, or at least his session, period, in the bullpen, and that's usually a good thing. When a starter has to do that, that means he has more work to do, and did the primary work on between the white lines and in a game, and then moves to a bullpen to finish it. So usually that's a good sign.
It is. And then also on the injury front, we heard the news yesterday and we were talking about it earlier. Tommy Edman will begin the season on the injured list. So now the watch for Victor Scott continues to grow. And I know that Ollie Marmol, you brought up this comment yesterday where Ollie Marmol said they're going to continue to watch him. I couldn't tell how to decipher that message, but it almost seems like he's saying maybe not yet for Victor.
Maybe not yet. Also looking at it the other way, maybe saying we're going to pump the brakes publicly and try to keep the pressure off him and keep him going. I looked at it both ways. I looked at it your way, Brooke, and then I started thinking about it. I'm like, maybe he's just trying to publicly, keep that carrot out there for him of, hey, you have a chance to get in here, have a chance to win a job. And as I said, I'm all aboard the Victor Scott train. I want to see him here in the big leagues. I've said this the last couple of days. We're in the entertainment business. He's an entertaining player. Let's bring him up and see what he can do.
Welcome aboard, Dan.
Welcome aboard is right.
Welcome aboard, because we're going full speed ahead.
I took the reasonable approach. I was not like against it or for it. I'm just kind of seeing how this thing plays out. And the more I watch it, the more I think about it, the more I believe he probably should be with the club.
Because it's exciting. I think that you want to see that. And hopefully it works out. And also Lars Nootbaar will find out some more about his status this weekend because he will be reevaluated on Saturday. Sonny Gray was able to throw another bullpen session yesterday. The Cardinals should be giving out some more information about his status because they want to see how he recovers. So we should know, I would assume soon, whether or not he'll be ready for opening day.
And the big news was the fact that you were down at the Battlehawks get-together last night. And you came away unscathed.
I did. First of all, caw to all of my Battlehawks fans out there. Yes, Dan, I was so excited to be able to do that up on the stage. I was nervous. I was like, okay, hopefully they will all do it with me. So I did 1, 2, 3, caw, and they all did it. They were cheering the whole time. The fans were absolutely fantastic. Anthony Beck, of course, our Battlehawks head coach, was there. You had Russ Brandon, who is the president of the UFL, and Daryl Johnston, who is the executive vice president of football operations for the UFL, was there. Recognizable names, I would say.
AJ McCarron not there?
No, he is busy. They have training camp.
So they came up and then went back down?
Yes. So they have training camp currently going on right now in Arlington, Texas, to get ready for the season. And AJ was back in Arlington getting ready for that.
And when does this kick off the season?
It kicks off here soon. I think 14. We are actually 14 days away. They will start on the road in Michigan. I think it's March 28th, I believe. I should know that off the top of my head. I apologize. I will get that for you.
That's when the Cardinals, I believe, that's the first pitch.
Am I getting all of my days mixed up at this point? Let's see.
It's a couple weeks away. That works. A couple weeks away. Rocc, do you have that readily available?
March 30th.
March 30th, okay.
So March 30th is their first game of the season, which will be on the road. And the big date that we need to know, Dan, is April 6th against the Renegades, because that's going to be back here in St. Louis.
How many folks are they expecting at those games? Do they know yet?
They haven't put out a number just yet, but they are still trying to push out filling the dome currently.
All right. That'll be fun.
It will be.
I think we've gotten 2 different press releases in this offseason about them opening new sections for ticket sales. So unless that was just like a, hey, we are opening another one if you want to get in there, unless that was like a tactic to push it, it seems like there's going to be, top level seating that's full.
March 30th is when they kick off. So Cardinal season will be in full swing by the 28th, and then March 30th, the Battlehawks will kick it off.
I love that. I love when there's a lot of stuff going on. And you have City SC, you have Blues. This is a great time of year, Dan.
Great time of year. You got the Masters right around the corner. I love it. You got the NCAA tournament, so it's as good as it gets.
Yes. That's Dan. I'm Brooke. Coming up next, we have They Said What? Coach K talked about the recent NIL issues, and he shares his stance on it. That's coming up next here on The Opening Drive.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues back in action after 2 days off. It's a back-to-back over the weekend, and some big games here as they face off against the Wild on Saturday night, and then the Ducks on Sunday night. It's a 7 p.m. puck drop against the Wild, and then a 6 p.m. puck drop against the Ducks. Also coming up this weekend, St. Louis City SC travels to L.A. to face off against the Galaxy, and they will be without Edward Leuven, who's going to be out at least 2 weeks. That's the time frame when they will reevaluate a hamstring injury that he picked up Wednesday in training. The team is saying, according to STL Today's Tom Timmerman, that they are being careful not to put a timeline on his return. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your Rosen Shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
What you talking about?
What the hell are you talking about?
What you talking about?
Do you actually listen to yourself when you speak, or do you find you drift in and out?
What you talking about?
Bro, I'm out, man.
It is time for They Said What. Brooke, Dan, and Rock here. And we're going to kick things off with, well, I should say that there's been a lot of discussion this week about the NIL and how it has changed college sports. You had Nick Saban with his comments earlier in the week, and also one of the greatest college basketball coaches, I think, personally, the greatest college basketball coach of all time, Coach K, weighing in on what he thinks on the Dan Patrick Show. Coach K making sure that people knew that he did not retire because of the new environment in college sports.
Why do we need to expand unless it's just money driven by the NCAA?
You know, Dan, I wish people would stop talking about changing the NCAA tournament right now. It's a treasure. It works. It's beautiful. You don't expand something not knowing what it's going to fit into in the future. We do not know the future of the NCAA, and the NCAA owns the tournament. Until we find out, like, are there going to be 4 divisions? Are there going to be power conferences? Until you find that out, don't throw out 72, 78. I don't think.
Yeah.
It's a treasure right now. And during this time of the year, it's like a cool thing to talk about, expansion. And I wish Charlie Baker wouldn't talk about expanding it until he knows what his organization is going to be 5 years from now. And by the way, you know, we're under contract for another 8 years, I think, you know, because we screwed it up.
Yeah, but they break contracts all the time, Coach.
All right, well, that was him actually weighing in on the NCAA tournament. We'll get that sound to you here quickly about the NIL, but still, he was talking about the possible expansion right there about the NCAA tournament, if that's a thing that maybe they should do or not. Do you think that that's something they should do?
It's really interesting because I definitely think they should expand in football because it's limited, and I, selfishly speaking, want to see more football, so I'm okay with that. Would a few more teams really hurt what you have going on? I don't think so. I think it would add to more intrigue with it. I get it. The way that you had it is something that maybe you don't want to disrupt the apple cart here because it's been so good. But would a few more teams really make that much of a difference? I don't think so.
No, I really don't think it would. But I get what he's saying there about the NCAA tournament and maybe not adding too much to the game. But at the same time, I don't know. I would have to see what it looks like, but then that also means disrupting what you currently have.
How about play-in games? So that's what essentially you might be getting with this, and it adds more drama to the NCAA tournament. And anytime you add more interest or drama to a tournament, I'm all about it. I think it'd be fun to see.
I always like the drama of it, Dan.
Yes.
That's the thing. The one shining moment, the upsets. We were discussing earlier in Take It or Leave It if a 1 seed would be an upset this year in the March Madness NCAA tournament. I like those kind of stories.
I'm curious what do they want, by the way? You can ask us on the text line or give us your thoughts. Would fringe teams water down the competition? I think that's what you have. That's to me, the big question. Too many teams already, says the 618. I get it. I think there's valid points to be made on both sides. You'll have the occasional upset from extra teams coming in, which is what we all want to see, I think, to the drama of the tournament. But does it get watered down? I think that's a valid point.
I think so. I think that is a very valid point. Too many teams already from the 618.
What do you think?
I don't think it's too many teams, personally. I have a lot of fun every year filling out multiple brackets.
I do too.
Because then it forces me to look into teams a little bit more. Dan, you were talking about earlier about trying to figure out like who's with who, especially around bracket time. We're like, wait a minute, what has this team done this year? Who's on this team currently? What is going on?
Yeah, a lot of people are saying on the text line, just leave it alone. It's good. What we have works, and it does. It works right now. I found it interesting what Coach K said. 8 more years affiliated with the NCAA and running this tournament. Here's the bottom line, though. What if the NCAA and these teams and these conferences say, we can get a lot more money out of this?
That's the thing.
If we can get more money, then you're going to see more teams.
Well, and also going back to the college football playoffs, I mean, we know that it's supposed to be a 12-team format, but now it seems like they're pushing more and more for that 14 playoff format.
Yeah, and I don't like it. I would expand. I mean, Division II in football figures it out, and it's wonderful to watch if you're a D2 fan, and it's a great tournament and how they figure out their national champion. I wish that Division I would follow some type of model with that, but does it get a little watered down with the NCAA tournament? Certainly you could say that too.
Yeah, you could argue that. And I know that we're working on getting you the sound right now to talk about NIL, but just kind of leading into it a little bit more. We discussed earlier this week Nick Saban and his comments about how he feels like he basically kind of insinuated that it was one of the reasons why he wanted to leave the game is because it was changing at such a rapid pace. You have NIL, you have transfer portal, and he's not exactly faulting the players, but I think that was some of the takeaways that people had from it is that he's saying that NIL has ruined college football, but that's not how you saw it.
No, I looked at it that, well, it was interesting. I mean, he said that he and Terry, Miss Terry, he and his wife would have recruits come over on a Sunday morning with their parents, and basically it wasn't a question about how you're going to develop my son. It was a question of how much money can you give our family and our son. And I think that these coaches have just had enough. I think they've said, this is too much. I mean, the Boston College head coach goes to Green Bay to be a coordinator. Chip Kelly, who at certain spots in his career has been an outstanding football coach, head football coach. He goes to Ohio State. And I think some of the coordinators are saying, this is a better deal. Yeah, I'm going to have to go out and recruit. Yes, I'm going to have to make some changes with what I do, but I'm not the head man. I don't have the total pressure of bringing in a kid, re-recruiting a kid, figuring out how I'm going to pay a kid. And some of these coaches are saying, I've had enough. I wonder if Travis Ford feels that way.
I wonder.
Yeah, the head coach at SLU, and he just says, yeah, I'm being relieved of my duties, but I've had a 27-year run, and you know what? I'm pretty good.
Yeah, and here's Coach K on what we were talking about earlier about if NIL is a good thing or a bad thing for college sports.
I didn't get out. I didn't stop. Plus, I don't like the word get out. I didn't retire. Get out means like I wanted to escape for something. Yeah. I didn't retire because of the new environment in college sports. It would have been exciting to try to adapt to that because, you know, during my 40, 50 years, you have to keep adapting. This is the biggest adaptation, I think, in the history of college athletics. And it's not been coordinated. Instead of complaining about what it is, just accept the fact that this is a new time. And just because it isn't like the old doesn't mean it's not okay. This is what it is. And we should figure out how to do what it is.
And that's the thing. It is what it is currently, but it does seem like you do have some coaches who are trying to speak out on the change. Now, I don't know if NIL is a little bit easier to navigate in college basketball. He is saying that that's something that if he was still coaching, that he would embrace currently. But I wonder if he would change his mind if he was back in it, having to deal with it on that side.
I love what he said. Accept it. This is where we're going right now.
It's not going anywhere, yeah.
So just deal with the times. Times are changing and accept it. It was interesting, too, for me, is that Alabama, once they made the coaching change, started losing kids. And would that have happened at Duke? Now, you have to look at it. Fewer kids are playing college basketball on a team as opposed to, you know, so many kids on a football team, 50 to 60 kids that you've got to re-recruit. But with Duke, it just seemed like it was much easier to say to a kid, if you come here, you're probably getting to the NBA or at least have a shot at it. So we're going to accept it like it is because we're still going to thrive in the way that college basketball is set up right now.
It has changed. And I wonder if you can't go backwards, but I wonder if there is some way where there's more of a compromise or a way to make this a little bit more efficient for everybody.
I wonder how you do that, though.
I have no idea. Well, maybe sharing some of the money, revenue sharing is a big part of it. Union, yes, a union, a players' association of some sort. But that's a lot of different things that would have to take place.
I would love to see the NCAA and the kids unionize, and so you have equitable distribution of the funds, and then you open up another can of worms is how far does that go and which sports would see it? How does it trickle down into your athletic programs? Do the bigger programs get more because they're in a bigger conference? TV money is bigger. It's something that they definitely need to figure out as they move forward.
They really do. And also the other big question is, will the NCAA play ball, pun intended?
I don't understand how someone, this is from the 314, like Saban, can critique kids for wanting to make money when he was making $10 million a year. I'm sure when he sat down to meet with Alabama to coach, he wanted to know how much they were going to pay him. Same thing. I agree with that, but he also has said that he believes that kids should be paid. Now, the question would be, how much would the kids get? That's the question of, okay.
Are they getting salaries?
Yeah, we'll pay him, and he was for that, but my question would be, okay, how far do you want to go?
Yeah.
And you can't begrudge a kid for leaving a certain place and getting re-recruited or recruited by another school and saying, well, they're going to give me more money, so I'm going to that school. I don't blame them.
Yeah, playing devil's advocate here, there is also a lot of people who say, well, players are getting paid under the table all the time, or in cheeseburger bags all the time. Yeah. So now this is actually in the forefront instead of behind closed doors.
It's fun. I think it's fun. I think it's fascinating, and I actually like watching this all go down. It's chaos right now. I do think it's hypocritical when coaches make the kind of money they make, and some coaches come out and say, we can't be paying kids. No. You're making all your money off of kids. You're coaching them, you're recruiting them, but ultimately you're tuning in games to watch them play. So they should get a piece of the pie.
Exactly. As Coach K says, you just have to accept it. Well, they said what? Coming up next, we have Rocc and Roll.
want to rock. And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocc here. And Selection Sunday is almost here. Get signed up today to play in this year's Bracket Madness Pick'em Challenge. Register to participate now at 101ESPN.com. It's free to enter, and this year's top scorer will take home a $250 Amazon gift card and a 101 prize pack. Seek the contest rules and get signed up to play in Bracket Madness now at 101ESPN.com. Brought to you by Bud Light and Twin Peaks. All right, Rocc, what do we have for Rock and Roll?
Well, you've heard me mention it a couple times. St. Louis City SC is out playing the LA Galaxy this weekend. It's a late game, 9:30 p.m. Central, because, well, those stupid time zones really screw us over here when they got to play over there on the West Coast. And the big story going into the game is no Edward Leuven for St. Louis City SC. This is kind of like a slight little thing that Cardinal just kind of opened up the press conference yesterday with. And my reaction was, okay, yeah, just an injury. But then as the hours have ticked by since the press conference yesterday, I started to get worried because I remembered, oh, yeah, this is the entire linchpin of the City offense. This could be a rough game in L.A. on Saturday night.
I guess we'll find out.
I mean, let's see. LA Galaxy is one of the best transition teams in the league, which is usually what City's strength is, which means you get bad turnovers, they're jumping on you, and they're taking it completely the other way. I'm a little bit worried about this City game again. I think they're a better team than the Galaxy, but we saw it against Houston. The Nielsen problem was one thing, but the fact that Edward Leuven didn't have it is just completely sucked out any offense from City's game, and that makes me worried that they might drop a couple points here against the LA Galaxy when it really should be a winnable game for them.
There you go. Well, yeah, that's always a big concern considering that he looks like he's been pretty healthy leading up to this point, and he's been a big part of just really managing City SC's midfield.
Rocc, it sounds like you don't have the confidence in Berkey.
It's not about the confidence in Berkey.
Come on, baby.
He's going to come away with those 2 or 3 big saves, but that's the thing about soccer is, like, it's one moment is the entire game sometimes. Like, Berkey can make every fingertip save in the game, but if something happens in the 75th minute, I'm just saying, the game can go against you pretty quickly. You have a more solid back line. You have Parker. You have Nielsen. We talked to Parker yesterday about how much Totland has really changed their game, giving them that aggression on the wide back position. But again, you still don't have the depth. Yarrow and Blom, we don't know if they're even traveling for this game. So that midfield center back depth, that's so important on this team. If you don't have it and somebody picks up another injury, again, we're just talking about the Houston game all over again if that's what happens. And we saw what happened there.
I don't like the times.
I don't either.
I don't like the times.
I don't like it either.
You play one game a week. I understand in baseball or even basketball, there's so many games that you have. Mm-hmm. This is one game a week. Give me my 7:30 Central Time so I can watch the game. 9:30, I'm probably asleep. You know, we have early mornings here at 101 ESPN. You get into a habit. You know, 9:30, you're sleeping. I don't want to see it at 9:30 at night. I want to see it at my normal 7:30.
And to your point, aren't West Coast sports watchers kind of conditioned that, like, 7 p.m. is when games are already games are already happening at 7 p.m. on the West Coast because they start them for the other time zones. If you're a West Coast person, you're usually used to watching sports at like 4:30, 5:30.
I don't know. West Coast fans pay all that much attention to sports.
That's also, yeah.
You got beaches, you got the ocean, you got mountains, you got
okay.
all kinds of stuff to do out on the West Coast. And we in St. Louis,
cloudy.
We like our sports, man.
It's cloudy out there, Dan.
It's very cloudy depending on where you go.
Oh, okay.
Depending on where you go in California.
Also, City, by the way, last year, not a good away team. There's just a lot of factors that are taking away a little bit of confidence in me going into this game, and I'm usually very confident about City
Went
games.
right over the head of certain people saying it was cloudy.
Directly over the head of certain people.
That's what I'm trying to say.
We're talking. Let's get some excitement then for a franchise. If I'm down on City, then I think Brooke Grimsley's got to be happy because they got some wide receivers going in Nashville. Now, your thoughts on the Calvin Ridley deal that we didn't get to talk about yesterday?
Hey, by the way, we're almost done with this show. So if we want to wrap this up early because there's a balloon party coming up.
There's a quarterback who's going to be throwing the passes. I'm not sure who.
Okay, here's the thing. BK and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday because BK straight up asked me, like, what in the world are your Titans doing? Who do they think that they are? I don't know. Here's the thing. It's going to be a gamble on Calvin Ridley.
Oh, Brooke. Where's Danny Mac where's Randy Carricker when you need him?
Well, the Titans wouldn't pay A.J. Brown big money.
Oh, wait.
Total bust was Traylon Burks to replace him, Calvin Ridley, and older and less accomplished wide receiver. Basically the same deal they refused to give Brown. And, I would say that this has been kind of a total mess right now for the Titans.
Okay, Dan, can I defend the Titans just for 1 second, even though I don't want to? The A.J. Brown thing was one of the biggest mistakes ever, and that's why Jim Robinson lost his job with the Titans. He was the GM that made that decision. It also was the catalyst of things really going south with Mike Vrabel, and now you don't have Mike Vrabel. And so Rand's coming in. At least the Titans have a lot of money to spend, and the reason I made the Calvin Ridley joke, which might be somewhat in poor taste, is he was suspended back in, was that 2022 for gambling? Yes. So that is why it might be a gamble a little bit on Calvin Ridley. But it could work out, honestly. I mean, there's a lot of different pieces. They seem to be changing up the offensive line, adding some pieces defensively. So who knows? Oh, and by the way, they added Steeler great Mason Rudolph behind Will Levis.
I also want to say, I don't think there's a lot of wide receivers in NFL history who sat out a whole year and then came back and had a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah.
Let's not act like Ridley was, like this is the Patriots trading for a post-Raiders Randy Moss or something like that. I mean, there's some questions about him, but he's played 4 full seasons and he has 2 1,000-yard seasons and 2 800-yard seasons. That's nothing to scoff at.
No.
All right, we got the Blues and the Wild pregame at 6 tomorrow. Blues and Ducks pregame at 5 here on 101 ESPN, and that's this weekend. 2 huge Blues games as they continue to fight for a playoff spot. But up next, it's the balloon party. So, Brooke, this has been a fun week. We didn't have Randy, but it's been a fun week.
We want to see your face. Who said that? You want to see my face?
It was a fun week. I really enjoyed it, and I'm also excited to have Randy back. But I feel like we did a good job, guys, holding down the fort. I'm proud of everybody in this room.
Thank you, Matthew.
All right, well, way to go, you two. This was a great week.
Pleasure.
Well, pleasure.
Balloon Party is coming up on 101 ESPN.
Pleasure.
When selling your home, you want the most money and the least hassle. That's exactly what you get when you work with our friend and trusted realtor, Gloria Liu, with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Hi, it's Randy, and selling your home is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why having an expert on your side is crucial right now.
That's right, Randy. Other agents out there know that some sellers will choose the agent that tells them the highest price. This can be a dangerous strategy, and most of the time ending up being empty promises. Gloria doesn't make empty promises. She makes guarantees in writing. It's simple. Gloria will guarantee to sell your home at your agreed upon price and time frame, or she will buy it, guaranteed in handwriting.
And with Jamie and Randy, you can take it from us and pick up the phone and call Gloria Liu at 314-325-68.